Well, we're getting back to the grind and, not fine fashion on our roadways here. We've got an injury crash blocking the right lane in Antioch, I-24 eastbound at Harding Place. The left shoulder's blocked on 40 eastbound. We've got a wreck there near the Briley Parkway exit, Briley Parkway East. That would be exit 215. 440 eastbound at the Hillsborough Pike exit. We've got a crash. An injury accident, 65 northbound at exit 88 there at the I-24 merge. And we also in Madison have the off-ramp to Briley Parkway partially blocked due to a crash there on that off-ramp. This is as it gets from 65 northbound. All right, we've got traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Welcome to the Matt Murphy Show. I'm Cameron Smith, filling in for Matt today. It's going to be an exciting show today. I want you, the listener, to educate me on a great number of topics. Specifically, I want to know what I'm missing. And yes, Jackson, we will get to the ruinous Saturday for my beloved Alabama Crimson Tide. I do not expect anybody to take it easy. This is SEC football.
At least you're prepared.
Yeah. If you can't take it, you should probably, I guess I would say Pac-12 normally, but that's not a thing anymore.
Oh, no, it's coming back.
Oh, okay.
They're gonna relaunch with 8 teams.
The Pac-8, the 8-pack.
I think that's what they started at.
Well, whatever they call that football out in that way.
Oh, did you see UCLA? A score of interest in the state of Tennessee
because of the quarterback.
Yes, they lost to Utah 43-10, and the quarterback didn't look great.
Hey,
I'm gonna say on it.
Tennessee quarterback. I mean,
Hey,
how about that?
Something to build on. I liked it a lot. Liked a lot of what I saw out of Joey Aguilar and loved what I saw out of Nico Iamaleava for UCLA.
One, you said that well, so good work. Two, yeah, man, Tennessee looked good. LSU looked good. I mean, I look around. There are plenty of teams that look good. The Alabama Crimson Tide was not one of those teams. Jeremy Bernard, maybe he was the one player that scored, a positive grade. But, yeah, that was to have somebody, Castellanos, smack talk Alabama all offseason, and then to have to call him daddy.
It's something you've never seen.
Nope.
I haven't seen in my lifetime because I remember when I was in high school, there was this Vanderbilt player who was coming off the field and said, Alabama, you're next, stuff like that. And then they lost 55-0 to Alabama the next week.
Yeah, and that's been the way it's gone. So I remember when I was in law school at the University of Alabama, we were bridged the time between the Shula handoff to Saban, right? I remember Saban landing in Tuscaloosa and how big of a deal that was. Since that time, we have won a lot of football and gotten very, very spoiled in all of this. And those days, at least for the present time, seem to be behind us.
It is so much fun watching these Alabama post-game shows where these people are just losing their ever-loving minds.
Yeah.
And then every, fourth or fifth caller is a Tennessee fan just calling to troll.
Yeah. Yeah. Tennessee's been in the wilderness for a long time. Maybe it's their time, but it certainly does not seem like it is the time for my beloved Alabama Crimson Tide. So we can put that to bed. We have the indomitable Louisiana Monroe, don't even know what their mascot is team as the home opener. And, oh, man, like couldn't
They're
come
the Raging Cajuns, I believe.
Well, that sounds neat. Hopefully that goes better. I've seen stranger things. And the way we played Saturday, anybody can beat us. So that's very concerning. We have Jay handling the news, so that's exciting. Jackson on the board. Just a couple things. One, I can do this because the team over at Thanks, it's my day job there in Franklin, lets me do this, and they help folks grow business with gratitude. It's a big deal. So they give me the flexibility to come and play fill-in, so I appreciate that. I like you guys to know where I'm coming from when we talk. Nate, I see go Knowles. Rub it in. Anybody else, get it out of your system. I know all you Vols fans out there, you know that I roll Tide, so get it in. Get it in. I've earned it. I'm on the Tennessean editorial board, and I'm a columnist over there. And I really appreciate you guys listening to me when I'm here with Matt on Wednesdays and engaging the podcast, all the best words. I really appreciate you guys checking that out. It helps us out a lot when you listen. And, so please continue to do that. And I want you to know where I'm coming from. So when I put my opinions out there and write them, if there's something you guys want me to write about over at the Tennessean, let me know. Y'all know where to find me. At D. Cameron Smith on X is the easiest way. And just tell me, hey, what about this? What's this thing? What do you think? And I'd really, really, really like to hear from you on topics, because that helps me know, because I want to write and talk for you guys, not just because I think something's interesting. I will say this is a part of the listening audience I don't often give a shout out to, but my folks in Pegram. I was at Narrows of the Harpeth State Park with my crew over the weekend. We were jumping in the Harpeth. We were catching some drum. Drum are really ugly fish. But they're fun to catch. I did not even really know they were in there, but we had a great time fishing, and it was wonderful. So thank you for all your hospitality over there. And I don't know where I ended up exactly around, I guess somewhere in Nashville, but I ate at Wayback Burger. It was good.
Never heard of it.
It was really good.
Where's it at?
I don't know. It was just it was over near where we were. And
over there?
Yeah, over yonder.
Around the corner?
Right. But it was really good, and I was impressed. I mean, there was two dudes in there that just rocked it, and we had some of the best burgers and milkshakes that we've had in a long time, so they did a good job. I was very impressed. But, yeah, I'll tell you guys, please continue to get outside. Take advantage of the awesome stuff that we have available in Middle Tennessee. I mean, there are some fantastic everybody's arguing on the Super Talk text line. I will tell you, 615-737-9986. 615-737-9986 for the uninitiated. For my home team out there in Nolensville, come on, Nolensville Knights beat Sunset. It was a nail biter, but got it done on Friday. I always love Friday nights.
I just looked up this burger spot.
Yeah.
Looks excellent.
It was indeed excellent. And their cheese fries, normally I don't get cheese fries. But I said, it's a late night snack. Let's do this. They put so much cheese on those fries. There was more cheese than fry. It was awesome. It was awesome. And, John in Lawrenceburg is, he says VFL. I'm pretty sure that's a STD.
Vol for life.
Oh, is that what that is? Okay. I wasn't sure, but I get it. And there's my friend Jason. Jason's checking in. I understand that he too is hurting me. He's right that there's only 4 minutes of football talk permitted, and then
we're over it.
People get upset, and then they're like, "How dare you? We need to hear about exciting policy." Oh, there's JB Pritzker. He's saying some things. Nobody cares. But yeah, this is the time of year where you get a little more football. It's okay. It's okay. We'll be fine. And no, Matt is not out sick because Georgia couldn't cover against Marshall. He's perfectly healthy. I've talked to him. He will be back. Okay. I want to set the stage for what I want to kind of chew through over the next couple of hours. we'll call it the education of Cameron Smith. I need you guys to help me understand what's going on here. I wrote a piece that many of y'all have responded to and talked to me about over at the Tennessean, talking about the headline, which incidentally, I don't write these. The headline writers do. It says, the U.S. now has a stake in private business. It's more Trump-branded socialism. And I just kind of ran down some of the things that I'm just a slow conservative, right? I'm free markets, limited government, rule of law, uphold the Constitution. I mean, it's pretty boring stuff, right? But I started going down a lot of the policy areas and sort of looking at them in detail. And I said, wait a minute. I need somebody to help me understand what's going on here and what I'm missing. Like, how are we as conservatives having so much winning that we're tired of it? And I need you guys to text in, call in, and help me understand where I'm wrong. Because I get it. It's easy to say anytime somebody criticizes the White House or Republicans right now to be like, oh, you don't like them. Well, that's not true. I actually like the way Trump has shaken up D.C. I like when I worked on Capitol Hill, ran the House Republican Policy Committee for Gary Palmer. It is a little stiff and stodgy, you know? A little like, oh, well, this is why we can't do the things because of reasons and stuff. And so I love the shakeup. I've loved enforcing immigration law. I've written about it extensively. And part of the problem is just because I like certain things does not mean the other things I have to like as well. And I get it. We play team politics right now, and we do things a little bit differently. So it's sort of like you got to swallow it all if you want it. But we got to take a break in just a minute. But before we do, here's what I want y'all to be thinking about. Call in and help explain what I'm missing. Spending. It's up 7% year over year. So Republicans took over where Joe Biden left off and spent more. Okay, the tariff stuff. Tariffs are taxes. They just are. We'll talk about, what's going on with the legal proceedings there, but the Republicans are bragging about government revenue. I'm sure y'all have seen this on the X machine, but they're saying, hey, look at how much money we've taken in. So okay, that's a little weird. And then we're now taking a 15% stake in Intel. We've got an export tax on NVIDIA and AMD. Government control of U.S. steel. We're just ignoring the law on the TikTok ban. I just kind of want to think through those things and look at what the Constitution says. That's an old piece of paper that we think is kind of important. But I want to run through that with you. We got to take a break right now. I'm Cameron Smith. You're listening to The Matt Murphy Show on Superdog 99.7.
Well, coming up here at the bottom of the hour, President Trump doubling down on sending troops, National Guard troops, into Chicago, and we'll have the governor of Illinois' response to all of that. That and more coming up at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Welcome back. Cameron Smith here, waiting to be educated. And Steven's on the line, and he wants to take the first stab at educating me on spending. So, Steven, what do you have to say?
Well, first let me say I don't think I can educate you any more than what you already are. I can just give you my side of what I think
Works for me.
is going on with the spending. So, yeah. So anyhow, we got the Democrats, we got the Republicans, we got the whole system, and we all come together and we find out what we're going to do with all this tax money, and then we create bills and we spend the money. All right.
Yep.
So the Democrats have one vision, one plan. Well, they have a bunch, but it's, whatever their party, their whole goal and everything. And then the Republicans have theirs as well. So we got two different visions, two different goals,
Got it.
Same money, different people get in power. Sometimes it's mismatch. Sometimes they agree, sometimes they don't. Ultimately, I think the spending that we're seeing now that's a problem with a lot of Republicans and a lot of people that voted for everything and they're still kind of worried about it. I think that all this money that's being spent is basically to reform all the wasted spending that has been going on from the Democrat Party, especially the last 4 years. And
So it's
Obama's
more
term.
Spending to get us to less spending.
More spending to try to get this machine fixed to where we don't have to spend more 20,
Okay.
30 years down the road. That's kind of like what I think,
No, that's fair. I mean, I think
And maybe one day we can stop spending or we can lessen that if we stay on the right track instead of changing lanes and going back down this wasteful highway again.
Yeah, and my concern with that analysis is, well, we got to spend more to get us to a point where we can spend less. I mean, I was always taught that, like, if you wanted to spend less, you just stop spending, right?
Yeah, but when it comes to, I agree, but and that's because you have a good plan and you have things set up the right way. You don't have to spend as much because you've got it set up. But when it comes to the border, when it comes to the demilitarizing of our military, shutting down bases, the reforming of our law enforcement, the high crime rates, everything, man. The vehicle industry, the destroying of pipelines and oil deals.
So what would be an example? Like, help me understand. Like, give me an example of where we could spend more money and it would help us save money. Like maybe like something with immigration. Like, what you thinking?
Well, spending more money and as far as immigration, I think we've already got that covered to where we're not, it's gonna stop that in the future where we don't have to have as many assets and spend more money in that in the long run. But as far as people coming back to our country, companies and businesses coming back to our country, and we're not going to have to spend as much money on the whole, world trade, the values of things, and we're not going to lose that money because of how everything's being rearranged right now.
So when do you think that we should expect to, see spending decline year over year? Like next year, maybe?
Oh man, yeah, that's a good question. That's why I say I don't know. I can't tell you, but I'm just thinking. I'm looking into the cloudiness of what I'm seeing here, and I don't think anybody can see too far because of what's going on with the two-party system and everything being so separated. We have too many different goals, too many different dreams and ideas within the two different parties. So we're just kind of like the ones that are saying, okay, here, take our money, and I guess you'll do okay with it. Right?
Yeah, that's rough. I don't know.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for the call.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Stephen, he's telling me the truth. I mean, he's saying, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we can. I don't know if we can stop spending. I want to know what you think. Help me out here, guys, because I'm looking at the numbers and I'm seeing, guess how much we spent? Almost $6 trillion. And $5.98 trillion in fiscal year 2025 to ensure the well-being of the people of the United States. Well, maybe, but what about my kids and their kids? And this all kind of looks kind of messy to me. We never got back to pre-COVID spending levels. We blew out the budget, and now we can't seem to go backwards. And in fact, Republicans are taking us higher. I mean, I've heard some folks, some of y'all are saying, oh, well, we're bending the curve. I've heard that before. We're bending the curve. That this was what they said about Obamacare. It'll bend the cost curve. It'll be fine. We got to take a break. I'm Cameron Smith. You're listening to The Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7.
Good afternoon. It's 3:30. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. A weather forecast and another traffic report are coming up. President Trump at an Oval Office news conference today, doubling down on sending National Guard troops and federal law enforcement to Chicago. ABC's Karen Travers has the latest.
He said, quote, "We're going in." He didn't say when, though, and he said, "We haven't indicated that at this point," but said that this is a certainty. Now, there has been significant pushback from the mayor of Chicago, the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, and the president said numerous times there that Pritzker should be begging him for his help in order to get that extra federal presence in Chicago.
The Illinois governor, J.B. Pritzker, responding to the president's request just a short time ago.
First, I want to address the president's unhinged remarks a few minutes ago, begging me to call him. No, I will not call the president, asking him to send troops to Chicago. I've made that clear already.
Well, back here in Nashville, authorities have obtained warrants for a man in connection with an altercation that escalated last night and left 2 people injured, including his own daughter. According to Metro Nashville Police, they were sent to the intersection of South 6th Street and Sylvan Street at about 6:30 last night to respond to reports of a shooting. When police got there, they reportedly learned that a 16-year-old girl had sustained a gunshot wound to her hand. During an interview with police, she allegedly stated that her father, identified as 45-year-old Bert Watkins, was involved in a fight with another man. And at some point, she claimed she saw her dad put out a gun, then heard a shot, and then realized she'd been hit in the hand. Upon further investigation, law enforcement learned that the 29-year-old man involved in the altercation with Watkins was taken to Vanderbilt University Medical Center. When police went to the emergency room to interview the man, he reportedly appeared heavily intoxicated and said he exchanged words with Watkins and then they got into a fight. He also alleged that Watkins pulled out a gun and hit him upside the head with it, which led the gun to discharge. Police reported Watkins fled after the incident, and the gun was later found at a nearby apartment. According to officials, that gun was stolen in Memphis 3 years ago. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News. Well, we've still got this issue on 24 eastbound at Harding Place in Antioch. A crash there still has the left lane blocked. Also in Antioch, Bill Road at Hickory Park Drive, we've got a crash. And near the airport, 40 eastbound near exit 215, the left shoulder is blocked due to a previous crash. Still clearing this issue for 40 eastbound past the Hillsborough Pike exit. There's an accident there. 65 northbound at exit 88, an injury accident in that location. And finally in Madison, 65 northbound, the off-ramp to Briley and Ellington Parkway, it's partially blocked. We've got a wreck there. We've got your traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Welcome back. I'm Cameron Smith, filling in for Matt. We're rolling through the 3 o'clock hour. See Joe and Ricky on the line. We need to figure out all this spending. We've got, I got to be honest. I think they're just lying to us. I don't think anybody's actually serious about reducing spending. It's just how we spend, because spending has gone in one direction, and that's up. So I'm just throwing that out there. But I want to hear what Joe has to say. Help me out, Joe.
Hey, Ken, how you doing this afternoon?
Doing great. What's going on?
So my take on it is this. First of all, Congress' responsibility is to pass a budget.
Sure.
And if it should be quite simple that if the budget isn't passed by, let's just say, the August recess, beginning of the August recess, they don't get a paycheck until they get the budget passed. That's number one. Number two, since the president is in charge of the executive branch, and I think that President Trump would probably do this because of the way he is, I would go to the heads of all my agencies and say, you have to give me a 2-year budget, and your requirements are, first of all, you're going to reduce spending by a minimum of 15%. You're going to reduce staff by a minimum of 10%, and you're going to do zero-based budgeting, which means you start from zero and you justify every single dollar you want to spend. And if you don't spend it all, that's where your budget starts at minus 15 next year or next time.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that
what's going to happen is our country at some point, debt like this is not sustainable. It's not sustainable for me as the head of my household. You just take the federal budget and then you just chop some zeros off of it, and then that's a household budget. And spending more to get out of debt doesn't make sense. But my big fear is, I've got 2 grandsons. I got one on the way, be here any day now.
Well, congrats.
And my fear, thanks, brother. I appreciate that. God is good, man. He's blessed me way more than I deserve. But at some point in the future, this is so unsustainable that America could very well have to declare national bankruptcy.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means.
If America had to do that, it would make the Great Depression look like a kid's birthday party.
Yeah, well, you'd have a global financial meltdown. That's what that would look like. Yeah, that would be awful. Yeah, I'm not for
hyperinflation like no one had ever seen before.
I'm not for defaulting on the debt, but I agree. At some point, you got to look at it and say we're spending $1 trillion a year just to pay our debt service, and we don't get anything for that. We get to pay for the money we borrowed, and I'm just concerned at the clip that we're digging. That we got to get over this idea of, well, Republicans are the good guys. Because if the good guys are spending 7% year over year more than the bad guys, well, how does that work? You know what I mean?
Right.
So at some point, you got to just stop.
I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it, but they have to do it. And zero-based budgeting. The argument's going to be, these departments are so big, they're so vast, there's so many people, there's so many moving parts, we can't do it that way. Okay, you just answered the first part of the problem.
Right. Yeah, and zero. Look, I'll tell you, Joe, zero-based budgeting is really a tough lift. I like the idea, but I'm telling you,
tough lift, and I acknowledge that it's a very tough lift.
When I worked for the House Republican Policy Committee, I asked Congressional Research Service for an org chart of the federal government, and they couldn't give me one. I want you to think about what that means. The organization tasked with providing information to members of Congress about what's going on said there is no comprehensive org chart of the federal bureaucracy. And that is terrifying.
And I'll give you one more quick example, and then I'll let you go to your next call. But I had to deal. So I'm a full-time missionary. So the way we're paid it's different than other people.
Sure.
Okay. So I got into a peeing match with the IRS because they didn't understand. They didn't understand my tax form when I submitted it 2 years ago. I went round and round with the IRS for 14 months to get my $7,400 back. I actually had to call my rep, Scott Desjardins, and they had to go to bat for me, put me in touch with a tax advocate who is supposed to be my voice against the IRS. The tax advocate did not know how a 501c3 worked, but she was really proud to tell me that she was a 27-year veteran of the IRS.
Well,
they couldn't understand how I got paid. I'm like, I told her, I said, do you realize how stupid that what you just told me sounds?
Yeah.
You guys write the flipping tax code and you don't understand it. That's ridiculous.
It is, Joe. I appreciate the call. Joe's right. He's on it that when you have the folks working for 27 years who don't understand the thing that they're tasked with dealing with, I mean, come on. Give me a break. Ricky, we got a few minutes. I want to get to you because you remind me of Ricky Henderson, who was my favorite base stealer from the Oakland Athletics. All right, Ricky, tell me.
Hello.
How is it? Tell me about spending.
Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you.
Okay. So I'll tell you a few areas. One is the extent of the problem. We got close to $37 trillion in debt and more than $100 trillion unfunded liability.
Sure. Big problem.
So there are two or three, really big problem. Actually. So 2 or 3 areas. The one, actually, I think where it could make a good impact is if we could lower short-term, put 80% of debt short-term. And we are paying close to 4% now. If we could get it down to around 2%, which is the short-term interest rate in Japan, France, and Germany, that'll cut down around $600 billion in payments. That's a big amount.
Yeah, it is.
The second is we should abolish Medicare Advantage plan. I mean, just basically give Medicare and let people buy based on their income secondary insurance. I mean, there's no point paying insurance millions and billions of dollars for elderly care in Advantage plan.
Okay.
That's just useless. Third is foreign aid. I mean, if you're not getting any benefit out of the foreign aid, etc., look at every item. Cut it down to bare minimum. There should be zero wastage.
Yeah.
And then, like other guy said, like 10 or 15% cutting in the workforce wherever you could do it.
Yeah.
So these are 3 or 4 areas where I feel like we could cut budget and probably make a impact close to $1 trillion in annual budget. I mean, we collect $4 trillion, we spend $6 trillion.
Yeah.
That's unsustainable for long term.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ricky, for the call. And a couple of things before we take a break. One, getting so some folks have talked about inflating away the debt, right? That kind of sort of like your home mortgage, that if you had long-term debt and you held it long enough that, the dollar value would change over time because of inflation. The problem with that is on these short-term debt instruments that Ricky was mentioning, the folks that lend to us are wise to that. So they want it short-term, so they keep rolling it, so they get the maximum interest rate over the shortest term possible so that inflation doesn't affect their amounts. So, yeah, Ricky's onto something. That's a challenge. The foreign aid stuff, yeah, we can cut billions there. I mean, strategically, if there's something useful for us, we should invest in it. If not, don't. When you're 1.8 to $2 trillion over, we don't have that much foreign aid. The Medicare Advantage, I don't know how much that would ultimately save us, but you're sort of hunting the right creature there in that our entitlement spending is massive. And nobody wants to talk about changing that and addressing that because it's political kryptonite. And it creates huge problems for anybody who says anything other than we want to keep the benefits the same or higher. Like the math doesn't work. Eventually the money won't be there. But the politicians today are like, well, let the politicians deal with it in the future when that happens to them. I don't want to deal with it. So I think the bottom line is there are some options, but really you just have to say no to good things. You have to say no to things you like. And that's the problem is politicians, we do not have any federal government programs that are designed to punt kittens. Okay? Like those are the easy ones. Like, oh, well, see, that's the one we don't like. But there are a lot of good programs that help a lot of people. They're not efficient. They're ultimately not good spending, but they're sort of positive spending, if you get what I'm saying. We'll keep talking about this because y'all want to. I see Mike on the line. I'll check on some of y'all on the text line, 615-737-9986. I'm Cameron Smith. This is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7.
I'm Pastor Alan Jackson, and I'm excited to invite you to join me for my brand new show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Every Sunday night from 7 to 8, I'll be talking about the week's news and headlines, but through a biblical lens. Together, we'll look at what's happening in our world and how God's Word can guide us through it. Join me, Pastor Alan Jackson, Sunday evenings at 7 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And you can listen on iHeartRadio and tune in.
Yeah, who was that guy? All right. Hey, Space Command is now moving to a new southern location just south of us here in Nashville. Also, an uninvited California wedding guest giving the term wedding crasher a new meaning. You're going to want to hear this. That's all coming up at 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
We're back. I'm Cameron Smith, filling in for Matt. Well, he just lost Mike. He was going to tell me about tariffs, and that's what we were talking about next. So I want to get to tariffs and some of the other topics, but I want to close out this hour just with a couple extra thoughts on spending. My argument would be that the spending issue actually is us. Excuse me. Because the moment a politician decides that they don't want to fund something, they're going to cut it. The people who benefit from that program start hollering, right? They start saying, well, I can't believe that we would do this. I can't believe that this would be the problem. We need this funding. So they start getting beat up. And the problem is there's a lot of good spending. Billions of dollars, trillions of dollars in spending for good priorities. So where are we going to cut those billions? For the uninitiated, you need 1,000 billion to make a trillion. We're 2 trillion over. So we got to cut billions with a B. Okay? So once we start doing that, people start getting upset. Well, you didn't fund that border thing. We had vehicles that we needed for border security, and it was $75 million for anti-lock brake upgrades. I can't believe you didn't want Border Patrol officers to be able to stop properly in inclement weather. And so the juice isn't worth the squeeze for our politicians. You know, we talk about DOGE and $9 billion in rescissions. Okay, cool. $9 billion. Let's just round it up to 10. Okay. We only need 990 more billion to get to 1 trillion, let alone 2. And do you guys remember? This wasn't that long ago. The hollering and screaming about what DOGE was doing. Oh, DOGE is they are just doing all the bad things. And yet, year over year, we're 7% up on spending because the gains just aren't enough. Right-sizing certain workforces, not enough. You need to address things like grants, money that we're paying out, entitlement spending. Oh, now I know I'm getting some of your attention when I start talking about Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. You've got a program that is inefficient. It is clunky. It was designed to be a social safety net, meaning it was there. It wasn't a social hammock. It was a safety net to help folks who couldn't get it. And 7967 says, hey, at least that's a start, right? I'll argue that it's not a start. It is literally a non-starter. To say, oh, well, we saved some billions. I guess it's okay when Republicans are completely in control to spend 7% more year over year. If we were not okay with the runaway spending during COVID, we weren't okay with the spending during the Biden administration, I don't think that we can be okay with an increase on that, right? We have to go the other way. We got to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk tariffs and other things. This is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7.
Good afternoon. It is 4 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories, a full forecast, and an updated traffic report coming up. President Trump today announced a move for U.S. Space Command from Colorado to Alabama. Alabama lawmakers have estimated the move could create 1,400 jobs and bring $1 billion in annual economic impact. ABC's Karen Travers has the latest.
President Trump today finishing what he tried to do in his first term, announcing that U.S. Space Command will leave Colorado.
The U.S. Space Command headquarters will move to the beautiful locale of a place called Huntsville, Alabama, forever to be known from this point forward as Rocket City.
The move reverses one made by then-President Biden in 2023 when he said he would keep Space Command in Colorado and build a new headquarters there. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
An investigation here in Nashville into an Instagram account helped organize that helped organize riotous car meetups has led to the arrest of an 18-year-old here in town. In News 2's Megan Fee, she has a report.
Metro Police used search warrants to link that Instagram account to 18-year-old Michael Orellana. Orellana is accused of posting digital flyers promoting and inciting riotous car meetups in locations across Nashville. The meetups led to intersection takeovers and dangerous driving, posing a risk to other drivers and property. Orellana was arrested yesterday and now faces 2 riot charges.
Orellana, apparently, according to court documents, played a central role in organizing, promoting, and participating in at least one car meetup in Antioch. Well, you've probably seen the movie, perhaps, Wedding Crashers. Well, in Glendale, California, it's a real-life wedding crasher story. Here's ABC's Alex Stone.
On Saturday night, George and Nadine Farahat were celebrating the biggest night of their lives, a large wedding at a hall here in Glendale. But an uninvited guest was caught on surveillance camera scoping the place out and then swiping their gift box full of tens of thousands of dollars given as gifts by guests.
As soon as we found out what happened, the music shut down, everything immediately stopped.
They say the thief was at the wedding for about 90 minutes, scoping it out, passing family members, and even ordering a drink at the bar before swiping the box and running off. Police are now investigating.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News. I'm sorry, just trying to get this computer to cooperate here. All right, we've got a crash, a couple of them in the Antioch area. The first one, Harding Place at Antioch Pike. And whoop, that other Antioch accident just disappeared. I guess that's a good thing. Thompson Lane and Foster Avenue, we have a crash. And 2 problems reported on Nolensville Pike, one north of Elysian Fields, the other south of McCall Street. Accidents in both locations. We've got your traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Welcome to the second hour of the Matt Murphy Show. I'm Cameron Smith, and I appreciate all of you on the Super Talk text line helping to educate me on how what we're doing in terms of spending is conservative. 615-737-9986. I would have settled for just sane. Forget conservative. The bottom line is that we've been running, call it $1.8 trillion deficits year over year since COVID. We simply can't sustain it, but we also can't cut anything. And what I find absolutely wild, first I have to mention that John in Lawrenceburg, I'll leave this for your consideration, said, Coach Josh Heupel's chin is easier to find than Bama's ability to tackle a loudmouth quarterback. Facts. That checks out. But where I am right now is I don't think that the Republicans, one, they haven't cut spending. We've established that. All of y'all are on the same page, it appears, that we're not doing a good job here. Walking the talk of fiscal conservatism, I think we've kind of just sort of let that go. But then we've said, you know what we are excited about? Tariffs. We love us some tariffs. The GOP's social media account on the X machine. You can go check mine out at @DCameronSmith. I've retweeted it several times because I find it so bizarre that Republicans are bragging about raising billions of dollars in government revenue. Now, it's pretty clear to anyone that's paying attention, the fun game is to be who pays tariffs. The answer to this point has been companies. So it's a corporate tax. The companies that are importing stuff pay the tax. They have yet to figure out, okay, how do we price our product? Because if these extra taxes, if we have to eat them, it cuts into our profits. That's true. If we pass them to consumers, it makes prices higher, and then they may go with a competitor. So everybody's kind of hanging out and really uncomfortable right now. And that's why the prices haven't just skyrocketed through the roof. I was wrong about that. I thought that immediately corporations would just everyone would pass them through, and they haven't. So basically, you have a corporate tax that the Republicans are bragging about that will ultimately become an individual tax or consumer tax. So that's where we find ourselves, and I'm concerned that I just don't understand how this is conservative of saying, hey, well, the answer here to fix the economy is to raise taxes. Now, that can help with the deficit that we saw some figures come out that said, hey, these tariffs will actually reduce the deficit. I want to say it was like $3 trillion. I think that's a good thing on the spending front, right? Like, that's it. But like 8695 pointed out, coffee is up over 100%. I wrote a column about this months ago over at the Tennessean about how ridiculous it is to tariff coffee because we don't actually grow that much coffee in the United States. We can't. We just don't have enough here to supply our demand. 0544 says, is this dude a liberal? Well, if by liberal you mean I want to see the federal government spend less and tax us less, yes, but that's kind of confusing because that's what I thought a conservative was. So Mike, he maybe can educate me on tariffs. He's been waiting patiently. Mike, help me understand how tariffs are a conservative thing.
Well, it's very simple. We have a trade deficit.
Yeah.
Big time before Trump was elected.
Yeah.
In other words, we've been ripped off by countries all over the world for decades. They take advantage of us. We sell our goods to them, and they get it for cheap, and then we have to buy their goods and have to pay a lot more. So the whole tariff thing is about let's build it in America, and if you build it in America, you pay zero tariffs. So corporations, businesses that say, you know what, I'm going to sell this to China, I'm going to sell this to the European Union, I'm going to sell this to India, I am not going to have to pay a dime in tariffs. And that's what Trump is saying.
So Mike, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you know what has happened to the trade deficit since these tariffs?
Gone down.
No, that's actually not true.
It's gone down because since January 1st, you have to let these things play out. You can't just say, like we did back in April, oh my God, these tariffs are going to destroy the world. Which happened? Stock market crashed because the elites of the world and everybody else that hates Trump around the world, including our own country, things don't happen overnight. It takes time.
Yeah.
That's why Trump got all these deals here recently with the EU, with a lot of big Japan, a bunch of countries.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, an appellate judge, appellate court in Washington, D.C. says you can't put tariffs on anybody.
Yeah.
Because then it's going to create economic chaos.
So, Mike, I'm not upset. I'm just trying to understand. So when I'm reading that the trade deficit has actually increased, I'm not reading that correctly?
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Has the national debt increased?
Yes.
Yes. And because, you know why? We don't have enough tax revenue. And one of the reasons is because of tariffs.
Whoa. Wait a minute. You're talking to a conservative, and you're saying the issue is we need more taxes?
We need taxes from other nations paying for it, not us.
They don't pay for that.
And what I'm telling you, if you think that getting rid of tariffs and going back to the old ways of letting countries rip us off is the way to go, then go back and get Joe Biden out of his deathbed and reelect him.
But Mike, help me out here. We're spending more than when Joe Biden was in office. That's true, right?
Yes, and you know who's responsible for that? The weak-kneed Republican Senate. That's who's responsible.
Okay, I would say that everybody is responsible because, like, Trump signed the appropriations bills, right?
He has to.
He has to.
He has to. Because guess what? We have government shutdown. Now, guess what Trump's going to do this time? Because he's in his last term.
Okay.
We're coming up here in 2 weeks with another CR, right? Or in September, CR.
Yeah.
Who's going to cave? You know who's going to cave? The Republicans. The Republican Senate, not Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a smart man. He's a businessman. He knows he has to now deal in his second term with these dumb, stupid Republicans that let the Democrats run roughshod on them.
Well, Mike, I hear you, and I think that you're right on a lot of that. But my question is, you told me that the reason we needed these tariffs was because of the trade deficit, and since the tariffs, our exports have gone way down. Our imports, we haven't imported as much. So like that, but that impact is that the trade deficit has gone up.
Why do you think these countries Why do these countries sign off on their deals with Trump? Why? Why do you think they did? Why do you think all these tariff deals, everything, all around the world, why are they signing them with Trump? Why do you think?
Well, because they want to trade?
Yes. With who?
So what I'm trying to understand, though, is tariffs were supposed to address the trade deficit, and it's gone up, but you're saying it will go down. But how will that work if we're not going to export as much?
Because when he got those Europeans to cough up 5% more to do in their defense, and all of a sudden they're starting to buy our defense contractor, Americans building defense stuff in the U.S., guess what? It creates jobs, and then it creates money in the U.S.
Okay.
And that's what he did. He made them realize that, you know what, the U.S. is not going to defend you anymore. You cough up your money through tariffs.
Okay.
Because, tariffs, if you want free trade, then be free trade.
Yeah. Like, that's
And
where
guess
Republicans
what?
have been for a long time, is that we think that people know how to spend their money better than the government, right?
No, the rhino Republicans say they want free trade and no tariffs.
So
the rhinos. They're part of the Democrat Party.
Hang on, Mike. You've talked a lot. Let me ask you a question. So it's rhino to want consumers to make decisions with their money and have low taxes.
No, rhinos don't want the consumers to make any decisions for themselves. Rhinos are in bed with Democrats.
Okay, but I'm talking about conservative ideas, right? That's let you spend your money the way you want to without government interference. That's conservative, right?
I absolutely, I agree with that.
Okay.
But you've got to live in a real world. You got to live in a real world. You're living with a government that is run by the Senate named John Thune and a bunch of Bukurskis and what else, another bunch of rhinos, including Marsha Blackburn and maybe Bill Haggerty. I think they're probably conservative, but you know what? They're kind of quiet about all this. And you know what? What's really scares me is that it's Donald Trump that's trying to, do the right thing for our country. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Tariffs are part of it. He's stopping these other countries that have been ripping us off for years that the Democrats have run and the rhino Republicans have run.
So I got one more question for you, Mike, and then I got to let you go because we got to take a break. How do you feel when President Trump, for example, just ignores the law, like with the TikTok ban, where Congress has passed a law, he signed it into law, and then he's like, nah, but I kind of like it. Are we cool with that?
I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe it's AI. Maybe you're cool with AI saying he's dead the White House window is open.
Hang on. So TikTok, the law that was passed by Congress was that the ByteDance had to either find a buyer domestically for TikTok or they had to basically shut down. That law was passed, and then Trump has said, well, but I'm not going to enforce it. Is that okay?
So what you're saying is that Trump is against America.
I'm saying he's not enforcing the law. That's the fact. Are we okay with that, though?
Oh, so you're saying that he didn't enforce the law. That's the fact. So what you're saying is Trump is anti-American.
I'm saying he didn't enforce this law that was passed by Congress.
He's anti-American.
We don't like Democrats not following the law. Is it okay if Republicans do it?
Is Trump anti-American, not enforcing the law?
I don't know, but he's not enforcing the law. I'm asking you if you're okay with that, if that's something.
Did he enforce the border law?
I'm asking about this law. Is this conservative? Is that what
Why
you
are
want?
you just asking this particular question on this one subject?
Because
Did Donald Trump enforce the law on the border?
Yes. Now you answer my question. Is it okay for him not to enforce laws just because he doesn't want to?
What are you talking about? Are you saying that this president is a dictator?
I'm saying the law says you have to shut this down.
So if a judge says you have to shut this down, are you agreeing with the appellate's court that he has to shut tariffs down? He has to.
That's how we do the checks and balances in the government, right?
Checks and balances.
Yeah.
Right? So we have Supreme Court we have appellate courts, and we have road judges running our country. Do you agree with that?
No, but I appreciate the call, Mike. I think, Mike and I kind of reached an impasse and we got to take a break. But I do want to talk about this because I'm trying to get educated. I'm trying to understand. And when I hear, well, this is designed to close the trade deficit, that's why we're doing it. And then I look at it and say, well, the trade deficit's actually expanding. So the thing you're doing is not accomplishing the goal you said it was here for. I'm not mad about it. I just want to understand. So maybe Brian, he's here to talk about the deficit, and Scott has some thoughts that he wants to relay to Mike, and I'll get you guys time, but we got to take a break now. I'm Cameron Smith. This is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7.
Well, there's been some movement on the Epstein files. We'll have the latest on that from D.C. And also, Illinois' governor remaining defiant of the president. And we'll also have today's closing money news. That's coming up at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Welcome back, y'all. I really appreciate the exchange with Mike. And I understand that some of y'all, may have not thought that, Mike was being consistent. But look, it's important for conservatives and Republicans and whatever other version of all this political stuff to at least have the conversation, right? I mean, and Mike was getting kind of upset. And there's nothing to get upset about. Mike was asking me things like, well, hey, do you think Trump is enforced the immigration law? Yes. I think that's great. I love that. I think it's amazing. And that's where you start, is you enforce the law. And then if you don't like the way the law is enforced, then you change the law in Congress. That's how this is supposed to work. And, 0899 said, who gives a bleep about TikTok? There's plenty of laws that aren't enforced. Well, then we probably shouldn't have those laws, right? You know where you go to do that? Congress. I don't think we would abide a Democrat just ignoring the law and saying, I'm not going to enforce that. I don't like it. So, yes, it was duly enacted law. It passed both houses of Congress and was signed by the president. But I just don't feel it, Like, that's crazy. We shouldn't support that. And it doesn't mean you have to hate everything everybody does. But I do think that, the expectation that if Congress passes the law and the president signs it, we should enforce it or change it is a pretty basic threshold. I mean, maybe you guys disagree. Maybe that's not a thing anymore. Maybe Republicans, it's like, okay, cool. Well, if we like the guy, then he can do whatever he wants. But I don't think that we're going to feel that way when it's not Trump, right? And that's a little concerning. Brian has some thoughts on the deficit. Maybe he can help educate me. Brian, we got about a minute before the break, so let me know what you got.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't think the deficit's ever going to get taken care of until we clean up the corruption.
Okay.
I think that things like congressmen and senators, no matter how good they are, they don't need to be career politicians. We need to have term limits, number one. Number two, there's a reason why.
Why do you think we don't toss them out?
Well, Congress has to be the one to pass the law. We have to.
No. I'm saying that term limits are artificially tossing them out. Or saying you can't run again. But we could always just say, hey, you've run too many times. We want to get rid of you. Why do you think we don't do that?
I wish we would. I think it's because the people need to be educated on it.
Sure. Okay.
But the bigger problem with that is these people go in there and become millionaires because of insider trading. Now, that's illegal for you and I. They'll put us under the jail, but it's legal for them to do.
Well, it's technically illegal for them too. There's no congressional exemption.
It needs to stop. It's been going on way too long. You got special interest groups and insider trading, and hold everybody's feet to the fire. Now, as far as Trump and TikTok, yeah, he should abide by the law, but at the same time, I look at everything that they have put him through, including Biden ignoring the border laws.
Yeah.
They've ignored some major laws. This is just TikTok. I don't like that he's not abiding by it, but at the same time, man, I can give him a pass.
Okay, that's a fair take. Well, I appreciate the call, Brian. I mean, that is certainly a take of, hey, the Biden administration declined to enforce a lot of laws. What's weird for me on this TikTok one is he signed it. If I'm correct, maybe it was Biden. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I thought it was him, and yet he's the one that's not enforced. It's weird, but that's a fair take to say, hey, I'll give him a pass. We got to take a break. I'm Cameron Smith. This is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7.
It is 4:30. Good afternoon. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. The full forecast and other traffic report are just a few minutes away. Congress returned from a weeks-long summer recess today to immediately take on a looming government shutdown deadline and the Epstein files. This afternoon, the House Oversight Committee met with several women who detailed abuse by Jeffrey Epstein. Soon after, House Speaker Mike Johnson emerged, insisting President Trump was in support of this House-led investigation.
This is full participation of the administration and the White House. The president has the same desire, so long as we're protecting the innocent victims.
Johnson added this was a bipartisan movement to discover what wealthy friends and clients of disgraced financier took part. In spite of the city of Chicago having over 50 shootings and 8 shooting deaths over the holiday weekend, the governor of Illinois pushing back against the president, who says he's planning on deploying the National Guard to Chicago. J.B. Pritzker posting a short social media video stressing there's no reason to send federal troops.
Just a lovely day here. No emergency, so Donald Trump understands no emergency in the city of Chicago to send troops in.
Now let's get to the market numbers report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management. Find them online at beaconcm.com. With today's closing money news, here's Chuck Severson.
Stocks dropped for their worst day in a month. Rising pressure from the bond market pulled stocks from their records. The Dow lost 249 points. The S&P dropped 44. The Nasdaq gave up 175. The 10-year Treasury yield climbed to 4.27% from 4.23% late Friday. When bonds are paying more in interest, investors are less willing to pay high prices for stocks. Big tech companies also pulled on the markets. Nvidia fell almost 2% amid concerns about its valuation. Amazon and Alphabet also dropped over 1% each. Tuesday was also the first opportunity for trading after a federal appeals court ruled late Friday that President Trump overstepped his legal authority when announcing sweeping tariffs on countries. Kraft Heinz fell 7% after announcing that it is splitting in two. McDonald's says it's cutting prices on some combo meals to try and woo back some customers.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News. Well, apparently out near the Hermitage on I-40 westbound, just past Central Pike, there's some kind of junk in the middle of the interstate there, debris that is affecting the flow of traffic. So please be cautious there. We also have an accident still being worked in the Antioch area, Harding Place at Antioch Pike. 440 eastbound, just past the Hillsborough Pike exit, the left shoulder remaining blocked there. We've got a stalled vehicle. Shelby Avenue at South 14th Street, an accident in East Nashville. We've got your traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Welcome back. I'm Cameron Smith. This is the Matt Murphy Show. You guys have been educating me. I'm not sure where we've fallen on this. I'm sort of confused at how we can think that higher taxes are what we need and we're conservative. That I don't get that. Jerry has been very patient. He has some thoughts on the deficit. Jerry, what do you got?
Well, my biggest thing that I've noticed from the first Trump administration is he hasn't really addressed the energy. I don't know if you remember the first couple of years of the first Trump administration, when he unleashed the oil and the coal and brought the energy prices down. I mean, that was huge, and I probably did the best I ever did in my adult life.
Yeah, energy price is a big deal.
What's that?
Energy prices are a big deal. You're right.
A huge deal, and I just don't see that this time around. And not that they're, really, really bad, but I mean, if he can keep getting them down and unleashing them and letting them go after that, I think that's a huge help. And I mean, you said it earlier, as far as the taxes and the deficit, really, I mean, the biggest thing is the spending.
Yeah.
And if the Republicans can't stop the spending, we're never going to, and I don't mean to sound fatalistic, but let's just hurry up and fall over the cliff then.
Yeah.
Because if we can't do it now, I mean, we're just not going to do it.
It's almost like if we need something to force us to change, because so far we've been able to just keep borrowing, right? And we just keep borrowing and borrowing and borrowing and borrowing, and we know that we're spending $1 trillion on debt service, but we just kind of don't care. And I think until something forces us, we're just going to keep going. I mean, I think you're right, Jerry.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the call, and look, I think Jerry's onto something. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I hadn't heard that much about energy prices. I mean, I've been feeling it when I fill up my pickup truck. But, energy is a huge issue right now. It's not just a huge issue for like cars and transportation. It's a huge issue for everything. I mean, some of our biggest companies are companies that are exploding right now. The limiting factor to their innovation and growth is energy. It's not compute power. It's not, AI advances. It's energy. It's, do they have enough energy to meet the demand? And if the answer is no, we've got a problem. Scott has been super patient. He had some thoughts on what Mike had to say. What you got, Scott?
Well, the only part that Mike missed, in my opinion, is to educate, because we have a bunch of individuals that have no idea how business truly works.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the trade deficit is going to continue to grow right now, because you have a lot of people that would bite out their nose to spite their face against Trump, but that's not the whole issue. All these contracts, these are made years and years in advance, where it's no different if you own a car dealership and you want the Ford logo. You must agree to a contract of an allocation, which means you will take XYZ amount of vehicles every single year in this allocations, this many Mustangs, this many trucks, so on and so forth. Now, we've allowed these other countries to negotiate with us at next to nothing, and they give much smaller time frames and smaller orders. Now, America, come on, we're the largest business in the world. We consume more than anybody else.
We're the largest consumers. We're not the largest business. We're largest consumers on the planet. You're correct.
So therefore, we already want the allocation. We know our people are going to buy. Our people will go into debt like there's no problem. We are very uneducated people when it comes down to being fiscally responsible, as well as giving the people the true information. And the true information is the current numbers, these were negotiated back under the Biden administration as far as how much we were going to take from these other countries.
Right, but we changed that.
But these allocations are still already on the books.
Well, some of them are contracted, but the trade deficit is the delta between imports and exports.
It's already there.
So you're saying that we were already going to have an expanded trade deficit, and that the fact that we've had these tariffs hasn't actually reduced our imports?
Well, technically, you are absolutely correct when you say that, because nothing will change for at least another probably 12 to 18 months because we're big babies across this world where we are going to go ahead,
it has changed.
Fight, we're going to posture. No,
exports are down. American exports are down.
Yes, because you got posturing on both sides. The other countries don't want to go ahead and pull more merchandise, more. They don't want to buy more American stuff right now at a higher cost.
So you're telling me that tariffs are a good thing? Like, help me understand.
Okay. Some reason it feels like I'm talking to a child with you.
Okay.
It is a good thing in the long run. A kid will do things wrong. They will push.
But isn't the goal of tariffs to reduce the trade barriers on both sides?
It takes time to make a child listen and do things the right way. It's the same thing when you're doing business. Everybody thinks
if you're running a daycare,
they want the best deal. It is. We are running a daycare. But people aren't educated. It's no different. You talked about AI. AI is the scariest thing known to man because somebody is behind there can plug in, if this equals this, this is now the outcome.
So, but do you think it's good for it's conservative for Republicans to bring in tax revenue, government revenue? Like we should expand taxes.
Hold on. Taxes we're talking two different things because technically taxes, they're a very slippery slope, and ultimately we should be making money where we can.
Okay.
We make money by people. It's perception.
Okay.
And when somebody feels that they want to buy something at XYZ, they're going to do it. Well, we are consumers. So therefore, these other countries, they want in on us. We are the ones buying. So ultimately, they are doing business with us. Why? It's a privilege to be able to bring out other countries' merchandise into America.
Right, but it works the other way too, right? Like we want other people to buy our stuff. We want to export things, right?
Right, but when you think about how much we buy of other people's stuff, if we made that stuff, and I heard, again, coffee, yeah, that's one that ultimately we're screwed there.
Right.
But that's one to me that they should be charged a tariff because they're doing business. Our businesses do business in here. They pay taxes on everything that they bring in as profits. So therefore, if we're going to go ahead and let other businesses in other countries sell to us, they need to be taxed.
But isn't the goal
making money off American people?
Isn't the goal that we want to sell as much of our stuff to the rest of the world as we can, and that we just don't want these trade barriers either way, right? We would prefer to have free markets, right?
But a free market, we have to treat it both ways. American companies and foreign countries and entities need to be treated the same.
And I agree with that. Like, so if they don't have a tariff, then we shouldn't charge a tariff, right?
No.
We shouldn't. So then why are we doing that?
No, we should.
We should.
You completely, don't go there.
So again, it's not trade reciprocity that you want. It's we're going to tax you.
If we are taxing our American businesses to do business with Americans,
right,
then these other businesses coming into our market, they take jobs,
right,
and they reduce the amount of profit our American businesses can.
But who pays the tariff?
America first.
Scott, help me. I hear you, but who pays that tariff when I get it. You're like saying, well, this company over in China, we'll use China as an example. They want to sell into America, and we can't tax them over in China, but we're taxing our companies in the United States, so it's not fair. So we need to tax. We need a tariff. Well, who pays the tariff?
Yes. The company does.
That's not true.
Hold on. It may not be true the way it looks, but that's why Trump is in office. We are the biggest business in the world. We're a business.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Scott, but help me understand. You told me that the company in China pays the tariff.
No, I said they need to.
But they don't.
That's their problem. Therefore, get out of our market. We need to start making the stuff here.
But the who pays the
American
tariff?
first.
It's the company in the United States that imported it, right? That we can tax, right?
Hey, hold on. I love a debate and everything else, but with you, have a great day, because it really just comes down to America first. We need to take care of America. We don't need everything from overseas. Yes, the people want certain stuff. Well, if they want certain stuff and
We
they
should
gotta
tax
pay
them.
for something coming over there, we're going to have to do that. We tax the country.
We're
And that's
taxing the
tariff.
country. I
It's a
got it.
tax.
The United States. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it. I get it. And 2482 says companies eat the tariffs. And so far, that's true. But it's American companies that are importing stuff. I'll use one that it's a company that I buy stuff from, Fabletics. They have a tariff surcharge now because they import stuff from China. And so I pay a tax, and it's me, right? And that company that's here, they're taxed by the government too. So nobody in China ever pays any tax. And that's what I'm trying to, I guess, understand a little bit better. We got to take a break. I'm Cameron Smith. This is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7.
President Trump today saying the Guard, they're headed to Illinois, and that state's governor, he is not happy about it. We'll have a little bit of that news for you, and we'll have the latest. There are some developments on the Epstein files. That's coming up at 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Welcome back. We've got a few minutes, and I'll tell you what, Sandra made a very fair take after listening to our discussion. She said a tariff is a consumption tax, and I've got no problem with that. We choose to pay it. Wish the whole country was based on a consumption tax so it'd never have to file a return again. Okay, cool. I mean, that's certainly a reasonable position, and it's an honest one. It's saying, yeah, these are trade taxes. It's a consumption tax. If you want to buy these goods, they're going to cost you more. So when you shop at Walmart, if they're importing something from China, it's going to cost you more. That we're paying to buy stuff. So it's a consumption tax. So I appreciate that. That is an honest take. And there are a ton of conservatives who say, you know what? We think that materialism is something that's bad, so let's tax consumption and not income because we think income generation is good. That is a coherent policy take, and I like that a lot. Joe has been super patient, and he wants to talk about TikTok. Joe, you got a couple minutes. Let's go.
Hey. Yeah, how you doing, Cameron?
I'm doing good, Joe.
Hey, as far as the tariffs, it's like the previous caller had said, I understand what President Trump is trying to do with them, and we're kind of in a middle area in the United States because we're in a lot of trouble when you look at our debt.
Yeah, we are.
And so when you look at that it's a consumption tax, if it's bringing money into the government, and my take is if they would throw that money directly to the debt, I'm okay with it. I'll take the pain for a while.
But I mean, so I hear you, but like this is what we've been telling Democrats forever is they say, well, we want to tax this, we want to tax that, we want to tax this, we want to do all this stuff when they don't get spending. And we have a spending problem, not a tax problem. Is that fair?
Right. Right. Well, that was my second part. Is the problem really comes down to Congress because what my hope when Trump won the presidency, my hope was they were going to pass the bill, the big beautiful bill. It's going to have some things you don't like in it, some things I don't like in it, but it would get us to a point to where Congress would say, okay, now we are going to do a balanced budget right now.
Right.
And if the government shuts down, so be it. Let it shut down for forever and ever, because my goal, my hope anyway, was that we would have.
Hey, Joe, do you mind holding for me and I can get back to you? We got to take a break.
Okay.
All right, we'll get back to Joe. I'm Cameron Smith. This is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7.
Good afternoon. It is exactly 5 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. A weather forecast and a traffic report are on the way. President Trump at an Oval Office news conference today. He doubled down on sending National Guard troops and federal law enforcement to Chicago. ABC's Karen Travers has the latest.
He said, quote, we're going in. He didn't say when, though, and he said we haven't indicated that at this point, but said that this is a certainty. Now, there has been significant pushback from the mayor of Chicago, the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, and the president said numerous times there that Pritzker should be begging him for his help in order to get that extra federal presence in Chicago.
Pritzker with a rather snarky response to the president's request.
First, I want to address the president's unhinged remarks a few minutes ago, begging me to call him. No, I will not call the president, asking him to send troops to Chicago. I've made that clear already.
Staying in D.C. now, Congress returning to work today after the summer recess, beginning with the House Oversight Committee's meeting with victims of Jeffrey Epstein. ABC's Alex Mullen tells us this has been a long time coming.
What we're hearing and what we're seeing on Capitol Hill today is when you do bring the victims in the fold, it does change the calculus. And that's actually something that the Justice Department has been relentlessly criticized for during this entire process. When they went to multiple judges to try and unseal various records stemming from investigations into both Jeffrey Epstein and his paramour Ghislaine Maxwell, they were criticized multiple times by judges who said that the victims were not given a voice or input in that process.
Last year, a federal judge ruled that Google is operating a monopoly in the market for online search engines. Well, today, that same judge has decided what the remedies to that monopoly should be. Here's ABC's Mike Dubusky.
Despite what the Justice Department had been arguing for, Google will not have to sell off major products like the Chrome web browser to fix its monopoly. Judge Amit Mehta says the company will instead have to share some of the data it collects on searches with qualified competitors. Google will also face limits on how much money it spends on exclusive agreements with other tech companies, like the $20 billion it pays Apple annually to be the default search engine in Safari.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather, there next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News. Okay, pardon me. I was actually listening to a news report. I apologize. Let's get you the traffic here. Thompson Lane at Foster Avenue. We've got a wreck, also an injury crash now. White Bridge Pike, just south of Charlotte Pike. Shelby Avenue at South 14th Street, still trying to clear that wreck in East Nashville. And also Chute Lane at Old Hickory Boulevard in the Old Hickory part of town. We just picked up a wreck there. We've got your traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
welcome back. We're 2 hours in, and we're having fun. And I appreciate you guys trying to educate me. I'm learning. My good friend Alex is recovering from surgery, and she, too, tuned in and was wondering why I'm still having to explain who pays tariffs. That we thought this was settled, but apparently not. It's fine. The challenges that we have with tariffs are that we have a spending problem. Just ignore that for a minute. The tariffs are there. They're taxes. They're essentially a consumption tax. Sandra is right. They're a consumption tax. So there's a Republican revenue stream coming in that's a consumption tax saying if you want to import stuff, that's a thing. You got to pay for it. We're going to tax the companies that import with federal income taxes too, and the people that pay for those taxes. So there's a lot of layers of taxation. Doesn't sound super conservative to me, but it's certainly a position that you can take, but it still doesn't deal with the spending. And Joe was very patient, and Joe was talking to us at the end of last hour, and I promised that we get back to him. So, Joe, thank you. Keep rolling, man.
Yeah. When I was saying, like, my second part, my biggest hope was that because, like I said, there's a little bit of, with this tariffs, he's bringing money in. Mm-hmm. I don't agree with them on an ongoing basis. But what my biggest hope was that Congress, because we're spending $2 trillion more every year than what we're bringing in. Yeah. And they have a projection of what's going to come in.
Yeah.
So my hope is that Congress, for once, while we have the power to say, this is what we're going to spend, and actually get it passed, and then all the future times, regardless of who's in office, when they try to play this game of, no, we're going to close the government if you don't give us more money, then we stand our ground and close the government. And then the continuing resolutions will stay at a lower amount.
Yeah, I mean, my take on it is, why would you believe that has a snowball's chance in hell of happening?
Well,
I mean, I'm kind of joking, but like they haven't helped us out at all.
Right, and that's what I had told a friend of mine. That I said, you know what, I am done if they don't do that during this administration, because as far as any hope, because they have the chance now to actually do that, to actually just look across the aisle and say, this is all we're approving. Keep the government shut down if you want, but we're going to stand our ground. And if they do that, I believe eventually the Democrats will cave. Even if it takes a year or two, they will eventually cave. And once you get one budget passed, even if it's just within, $1 trillion, even if we cut it by $1 trillion, then all future spending, every time they try to raise it more than what they're projected coming in, then we just stand our ground. And then eventually...
So why aren't we talking about that at all, Joe? Like, I hear you, but like, for example, in the big, beautiful bill, I think it was $5 trillion was the debt limit increase that was in the end of that bill. Like, I don't think any Republicans want to have this conversation, and Democrats sure don't. So is this just, hey, we hope they do it and they won't? Or is it like, how do we hold them accountable for this?
Well, and that's where the catch-22 is, because, I remember a while back when the president first took office, Marsha Blackburn explained that this was going to be done in 3 different bills. She said the big, beautiful bill, it was first they were going to tackle the taxes, keeping the taxes at the same rate. Then they were going to look at doing another part. I can't remember exactly which part. And then by January of that next year, then they were going to handle taxes on tips. But I believe the administration didn't want to do it that way because they learned from the first time that if, Trump loses favor and all he got done was one part of that. You see what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just want to know what the other parts are.
I don't like it. I don't like the deficit, but I understand why they wanted it all at once.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I don't think they had the confidence or wanted to take the chance that they would keep the power. And
my point, Joe, is that we haven't addressed it at all. Spending is up 7% year over year. By definition, if spending is up, you haven't taken the deficit down at all. You've in fact spent more.
And I agree with you. I agree 100%. And like I said, there's a lot of things in the big beautiful bill I didn't like, and I don't really like the tariffs as a solution to it. I just think if the tariffs could be an advantage if Congress will do that, and that's my biggest point is it's Congress.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Congress is the issue here because both Republican and Democrat, for whatever reason, I don't think they really believe the deficit is a problem, to be honest with you.
Joe, I
think they think we can just go into perpetuity and, you know, man, that's the issue I have, because we need to do a balanced budget. That's what needs to happen. And then we need to hold the feet every time someone threatens to shut down the government, let them do it.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, Joe. Thank you for the call, man.
Yep. I appreciate you.
All right. Bye. So I think Joe's onto it, but it's just really hard because we don't hold him accountable. And there was a really good 1607 texted in and said, tariffs, here's the way it works. I make a hammer, America makes a hammer. I'd pay my workers a penny, you pay your workers $5 an hour. My hammer outcompetes yours due to price. Funny you'd say that. I love S-Swing hammers. They're great hammers. They're made in America. They're awesome. And I pay a premium for it. But if somebody is just tacking up frames around the house and they want a hammer that's $1, why don't they get to make that decision? Like, I hear you guys saying buy American. America's better. Okay. So you're not going to shop at Walmart. Because I think that's the problem is people are like, you buy American, buy American, buy American. I agree with you. On a lot of stuff, I buy American because it's better quality. It's a better thing. But the idea that, well, tariffs level the playing field. No, tariffs make it works for everybody, because the American company says, you know what? I don't actually have to compete against those because the government's putting its hand on the scales and making those hammers more expensive. So now I don't have to improve my quality. I don't have to be a better quality because government's basically squishing on my competition. And I just don't, this is where I'm trying to understand, because I don't like the government putting its hand on the market scales. I don't like the government telling me, here's what you can buy from whom and where. If I want to buy cheap stuff because I value price over quality for something that, toilet paper. I don't need my toilet paper made in America. I just don't care. But I may want my hammer made in America, and I may want my car made in America. I've got one of those. So I want to make the choices. Like I want you to make the choices. I want free people to decide and not the government to do economic engineering. And that's where I struggle with some of this stuff, because when we're saying, well, we want another layer of tax, if what Sandra's saying is, hey, I would like to trade them. So get rid of the federal income tax, do a consumption tax, and tariffs are a part of that. Okay. I could get, but I don't see the move to get rid of the income tax. And I think, we got to be honest, I think, about we do some stuff really great in America. Like, we make some awesome things. Some of our technology, for example, is second to none. Some of our science-based stuff. I know a lot of y'all folks aren't high on drug companies right now, but dang, they make some pretty cool stuff, especially when you're really sick and you need it and you get better. And I think that's important. And, 1063 said human rights should be important. There should, several of y'all are saying, well, there's morality here, and you need to realize that these countries, well, what you're doing is you're putting your judgment for mine. Okay? So you're saying, you can't be free to choose to buy something that's cheap because somebody else thinks that China's human rights record means I shouldn't be able to shop stuff that they export. Like, they make great socks. They do. Some of the best socks there. If you want to say ban anything from countries with human rights abuses, okay, that's certainly possible. But then again, I think a lot of y'all like to shop at Walmart. I don't think you want the prices to go through the roof. And that's fine. That's your choice. And I think that we as consumers need to be free to make those choices and not have politicians tell us what we need to do. Now, the government does need revenue. I'm not no tax government is just weird. Like, we need to feel the burden of our government. Why? So that we reduce it. Because right now, all this borrowing is what I'd go after. Because that's the pressure release valve. It's, well, let's go borrow. And when you borrow instead of tax or instead of cutting spending, it's sort of no man's land. It kicks it to the future. And so what I'm concerned about is that we just don't feel it. Like, we have a very burdensome government. It is very large and getting larger. The bureaucracy is expanding. We hadn't really talked about the fact that, you know what? Like, the tariffs require a big new bureaucracy because you have to enforce the tariffs. So it's more bureaucrats, more government. That's like, by its nature, it's got to happen. So I get it. But I think that here's 1063. It says, okay, I'm going to have a slave in my house making your hammers. I want to sell you one. You want to buy? No, I don't. But that's my choice. When the government makes the decision for me and says, well, you can't buy that from that country or this from that country, we've decided that you can't make an informed choice. The government puts its judgment in the stead of mine. And as a conservative, I have a huge problem with that. I don't care what the party is that's in charge. Phyllis wants to talk imports, but we got to take a break first. I'm Cameron Smith. This is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7.
Coming up here in just a few minutes, we'll have these stories. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson weighing in today on the Epstein files investigation. And the President of the United States and the Governor of Illinois continue to butt heads. We'll have those stories at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
We are rolling. Phyllis has some thoughts on imports, and I want to give Phyllis an opportunity to tell us those thoughts. Phyllis, what are you thinking?
Hi, thank you for taking my call, Mr. Smith.
No problem.
I appreciate you saying, yes, of course, you can get some items are cheaper from China. And I haven't purchased Nike sneakers in over 7 years because of their factories. I'm one of them, right?
Okay.
But there's a bigger issue here with China.
Okay.
Because if you remember, China at some point was importing dog food, and dogs were dying. Do the search, you'll see it. The problem with China is, if you look at the ingredients and the materials they use in their products, for instance, polyamide and these plastics, which is plastic, an outright plastic, known to cause cancer, especially the polyamides, they use it in the clothing they make.
Okay.
Shein, S-H-E-I-N, cheap clothing, teenagers are buying it up like crazy. Their clothing, the coating in it, the fabric in it, causes cancer. It's a fact. So the problem with China is, forget it, that everyone thinks, oh, well, Chinese, look, they're out doing it because they're paying their workers less money. Dude, they've been trying to get to us, hurt us, fentanyl. Now, there's a new drug that just came out that's not detectable because I follow it. And it's amazing how they try to get to us and hurt us in ways that are just, you wouldn't even believe it. But
So you would just ban trade with China and just say, no, we're not going to trade with you.
Not ban trade with China. This is what I would do. If you go on Temu, they actually will tell you which some of their products that cause cancer, and it's banned in California. Out of all the states, California, right?
Right.
There's certain, like we have GMOs in our food, parabens. The EU doesn't, right?
Sure.
We're trying to ban that. You are not. We shouldn't be able to trade with a country that has been trying to kill us from the inside out. We should not. We should regulate how we do business, which corporations we do business with, and if you are selling products that are going to cause cancer, it's a fact. You have no business selling in our country. You just don't, because at the end of the day, their goal is not to make money. They're about money. They're not, and they'll do it at any.
So we should ban cigarettes too, right?
No, cigarettes. Listen, when you're buying cigarettes, you know that cigarettes are going to cause cancer. It's a fact.
Well, you just told me that you just told me that we know that their stuff causes cancer.
I know it. I know it.
Oh.
You didn't know it.
I didn't know.
You didn't know it. No, you didn't know that. A lot of people don't know it. You didn't know. All of a sudden, people were learning about GMOs. I've known about GMOs and parabens for years. Why didn't you? A lot of people don't know it. Why is it banned in the EU? But here we can have.
So couldn't we just couldn't the government just inform consumers and tell them, hey, this will give you cancer, and then you can choose if you want to buy it or not?
I think that's fine, but unfortunately, I think when you have people who really want to have things and own things and don't have the means to pay more money, I'm an advocate for that underdog, and I don't think they're going to go and buy it anyway. They just don't care. They just want to have what they want to have. And I personally, because I've seen cancer in my family, and I've just seen.
But aren't you saying, Phyllis? Let me ask you a question. Aren't you saying that if they're going to buy it because they want to, you're just saying that you don't think they should be able to buy it?
I don't think. Okay, they should. Okay, being able to buy it is one thing. I don't think in the country we should certain things to be in our food, in our clothing, in our plastics. No, I don't think we should have that even allowed in our country. I don't.
Okay, that's a fair take. Well,
yeah,
I mean, I appreciate that take, Phyllis. I mean, that makes sense. Oops, I think we lost Phyllis. Well, but Phyllis is taking a point that I've heard a lot of people take. Especially, my family was in the homeschool community for a lot of time, and they're like, look, there's these toxins and all this consumer stuff, and we don't want it. We don't want to buy it. 1607 says, You sound like a country club Republican, Cameron, if you think it's okay to sell poison. Okay, so alcohol is a poison. Tobacco is a poison. Sugar ultimately is a poison. I mean, I can kind of go down the list of things that we allow free people to do that aren't good for them. Like, that's kind of the challenge here for me. Like, I hear what you're saying, but I think it's the job of the government to make sure consumers are informed. I think Phyllis is right about that. I mean, if there are cancer clothes and I'm wearing something that's going to make me have cancer, I need to know about it. Gene says everything causes cancer in California. I don't think Gene's wrong because I've seen the cancer warnings in California, and it's literally everything. But if you tell a consumer, hey, that's going to kill you, then I think the consumer can decide, right? It doesn't mean they'll decide the way you want, but that's freedom, I think. And I think we should be for that. I'm very, very pro-freedom. I think, again, that's a conservative thing. And so I get it that China is wanting to sell us stuff that, you know, might harm us, but we need to let consumers make those choices as opposed to the government. That's just a conservative thing. We got to take a break. I'm Cameron Smith. This is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7.
Good afternoon. It's 5:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. A weather forecast and a traffic report are coming up. House Speaker Mike Johnson pledged that President Trump is in support of the investigation into the other abusers named in Jeffrey Epstein's files, adding victim identities had to be protected. The Department of Justice's next move to go after them could require the president's approval, and Congress wants him to. Here's ABC's Alex Mallon.
Would he sign off on something like this that directs his own Justice Department to hand over files? No, that bill does include a provision that will require the Justice Department to redact any names of victims. So when you hear House Speaker Mike Johnson there talking about the need to be sensitive towards victims, that is something very much that is also on the mind of Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna. They are saying that there should be no disclosures of people who are victims of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes if they don't want to have their names disclosed.
President Trump today announcing, quote, "We're going in," when asked about crime in Chicago during his Oval Office briefing today. But that was news to Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, who only learned about the deployment of ICE agents to the city this weekend. Pritzker said his state has had a long history of working with federal law enforcement on everything from drug busts to preparing for high-profile political events from all administrations, but he had never been blindsided like this before. Also, Pritzker responding about an hour later with this comment.
On Saturday, the head of the Illinois State Police received a phone call from CBP's chief patrol agent, Gregory Bovino, indicating that ICE would be deploying to Chicago. It's the first outreach we have received from the Trump administration on this topic.
The president insisting this was an obligation following a weekend of shootings in the city that left 8 people dead, and asked Pritzker to call him. Pritzker said the president was unhinged. The Nashville Fire Department reports that a firefighter was hospitalized following a response to an explosion that led to a fire at a home over the weekend. Crews responded to reports of an explosion with black smoke showing at about 4:30 make that Sunday. Units found heavy fire conditions with an extension to the attic. As crews initially began battling the blaze, a second alarm was sounded to request additional manpower. And as crews continued to battle the fire, a firefighter became disoriented in the attic, and he was assisted out of the home and taken to a local hospital. Investigators classified the fire as accidental, likely caused by either an electrical failure or a single burner camping stove. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather. There next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Are we back? I'm here.
All right, still looking at traffic here this afternoon. We've got an injury crash now, Old Hickory Boulevard, east of 24th Street. Thompson Lane at Foster Avenue, a crash. Still working this wreck downtown. Dr. M.L. King Jr. Boulevard at Representative John Lewis Way. Nashboro Village in that vicinity, a crash reported now. Murfreesboro Pike at Bell Road. We've got your traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Welcome back, Wild Ones. This is the Matt Murphy Show. I'm Cameron Smith. One of the questions on the Super Talk text line, 615-737-9986, was, why are we talking about this? Like, what about current events? Like, what's going on? Well, the current event is that the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals, in a 7-4 decision, struck down Trump's IEEPA tariffs and said, no dice. That order is stayed until October 14th, so the administration has time to appeal to the Supreme Court. And I'm actually looking forward to this because I'm okay with an administration. Every executive branch in my lifetime has tried to expand executive authority, has basically said we can do what we want. We just have to find some justification. Y'all remember Joe Biden did this with the student loan forgiveness stuff. Here, the court has basically said that regulate importation under IEEPA does not mean impose tariffs. It said that tariffs are a form of taxation and Constitution vests the taxing power squarely in Congress. So Congress may take a vote. They're gonna take a vote on the Epstein stuff, thanks to Thomas Massie. They may take a vote and say, hey, we want to support Trump's tariff regime. We think it's the right call. It's the right policy. And then Trump will have the authority to do it. Or the Supreme Court could side with the dissenting judges in this case and say that, okay, if there's an identified national emergency, then the president has to have the ability to impose tariffs. I don't like, notwithstanding that this is a Republican administration, I don't like governing by emergency because the definition of emergency varies wildly. For example, there is no questioning that Trump has the authority, and I actually wrote about this over at the Tennessean, to do what he's doing with law enforcement in the District of Columbia. The law as it is written says basically the executive branch gets to decide if there's an emergency, and when they say there's an emergency, you got 30 days to kind of do what you want. That's the way it is. That's the law. So I think that's something we should be as conservatives of saying, well, do we want to just give emergency power broadly? I think the answer is no to anybody. That if there's a true emergency, like we're under attack, like from a sovereign nation, like a Pearl Harbor style attack, like, okay, cool. I can get behind that. But when it goes beyond that and says, well, everything's an emergency, now nothing's an emergency, and then you have an executive branch that does whatever they want. It's the Ron Swanson government where you can just do what you want. You just write it on a piece of paper. And I think that's probably the bigger question I have, in this educational endeavor is the way I always looked at the Constitution, and the Constitution is pretty clear that the executive power is vested in the President of the United States. And that the president's job, amongst other things, is to make sure that the laws are faithfully executed. That's not that controversial. What this administration has done that's different than other administrations is said, well, if Congress doesn't tell me no, if Congress doesn't tell the Trump administration no, then the executive authority means I can just kind of do it until they stop me. And that's just a different reading. 7882 says, do you think he has the right to send troops to Chicago? What would be the statutory authority there? Would be my question. Yeah, pursuant to what law? DC is an easy one. Like that's a federal enclave. It's handled differently. But going and supplanting or commandeering the Chicago police, for example, I just am not familiar of the legal authority that says he can do that. The same thing with the flag burning. That's another good one. The executive order on flag burning basically said, well, it's protected speech, but we can kind of, yeah, everybody should get, if you burn the flag, a year in jail. Well, no. Like, you don't, that's not how that works. You can't just declare a crime and then try to enforce it. And the executive order is basically like, well, hate speech and this other stuff, let's try to like bump up those around this and maybe that'll work. Again, like we don't, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, want any politician unilaterally making law. Even if we like it, because that if we like it, that means that somebody else could do it in a way we don't like. And we literally, my family just retired a worn out flag last night. Like, we take it really seriously, protecting the flag. But the idea that the president can just say, hey, you burn the flag, you get a year in jail. No, you don't. Like, I just don't think we want that, right? I want to protect the flag. I think it is an important symbol of our nation. And Tom said, wasn't burning the flag already a criminal offense? No, Tom, it wasn't. In fact, the Supreme Court had held it as protected speech. That if somebody, it is a speech act, it's not speech proper, but it's a speech act, that if somebody burns the American flag in protest, here's the way I'll call it. It is atrocious, petulant, childish, constitutionally protected speech. And I think we got to be careful with this, because I love the Constitution more than I love any politician. And so I hate the fact that people would burn the flag. I hate it when you've seen it, they burn it, they stomp on it. I mean, they're trashing it, right? And it makes me so mad. But the people that died for that flag died for the freedom, not the flag itself, but for the freedom, right? To say and speak and tell power how mad you are and not get thrown in jail. And so, like, that's something that we got to think through. And that's what I'm trying to do, because I'm not going to tell you how you should feel about all this stuff. That's the reason I'm asking questions, is because my friend Alex, 3449 says, I may not agree with what you say, but I'll protect your right to say it. Amen. Like, I'll be honest. I write over at the Tennessean. Many of the folks over there don't share my perspectives. I know you're shocked. But they want to protect my right to say things that drive them nuts. Does that make sense? Like, and I think that has to go both ways. And so, like, I get it. The flag represents a lot of things. We should not desecrate the flag, but it is absolutely, the Supreme Court has been very clear, it is constitutionally protected speech. And 3581 says, doesn't the new law only apply if you're inciting a riot? No, one, it's not a law. It's an executive order. So that's just Trump saying, here's what I want. And what he instructed the Department of Justice to do is basically look at these other laws that are kind of around it. Like, there's a way I could burn a flag that I'm trying to, like, intimidate you. Or I'm trying, but I'm not actually, it's a pure expression. It's like, I burned it in your front yard. Kind of like the Klan used to burn crosses. And 041 or 0143 says SCOTUS got that wrong. And you can believe that the Supreme Court got it wrong. But, like, here's the take on it. We have a way of sorting this stuff out, right? And most of the time, the way we sort it out is votes. Votes in Congress. And then we'll vote on it, and we'll do that thing, right? But then we have this check ever since Marbury v. Madison of the Supreme Court saying we're going to interpret the Constitution and apply it to the law to make sure that you guys over in the legislature didn't violate our supreme law of the land, which is the Constitution, when you decided to do stuff. Same with you, executive branch. If you just decide to do stuff and you don't really check and see whether it's constitutional or not, we're going to hold you to account. And so we got all these checks and balances, and that's a good thing for us as Americans. We do not act, this is like a misnomer. We don't have co-equal branches of government. Y'all know that, right? Like, we have Congress, Article 1, that's the big branch. That's the one that's really there. Like, it's supposed to be where the federal government does that stuff. Nolene, we may do Ninkampoops later, but it's Jackson and I. Jay is really burning the wick on both ends. So we'll get to it, but we're going to get to it probably. We're just going to maybe do it next hour. Is that okay, Jackson?
That's fine with me, bud.
Okay, well, then we'll do it because I don't want Nolene to feel like we skipped out on Ninkampoops. So we got you covered. But we're a little delayed, a little shorthanded, so we'll get it done. But the point that I was making is that the Constitution has to check the laws and executive orders. It's just the way we've got to have it. And if you've got one branch saying, I can just do whatever I want, it doesn't matter what you say. Well, no. Like, it kind of has to matter. And I think it's easy to look at some of the stuff that we like with the Trump administration and say, oh, hey, I like that. I like that my taxes didn't increase. I like that part of the big, beautiful bill. I like the immigration law enforcement. I think that's great. I love some of the DOJ stuff. I like some of the regulatory process reforms. Like, that stuff is amazing. But when something runs afoul of the Constitution, to be like, well, it doesn't matter. We just do it anyway. I don't know. I don't think that that's a good idea. So let me know what you guys think. We got to take a break. I'm Cameron Smith. This is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7. Welcome back. I'm trying to get
Minneapolis. Okay, I've got just technical issues in here. I am so sorry.
Go, Jay.
Minneapolis's mayor is pleading for a ban of certain weapons, and Space Command, they're getting a new home just south of Nashville. That's coming up at 6 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right. Well, we'll have to get Jay's technical issues fixed because you got a little timing issue there, but that's all right.
I'm sorry, Cameron. It's on me, man.
No, you're okay, dude. You're trying to do all of everything.
Yeah, I got about 40 balls jumping around in here.
You and Marco Rubio. I love it. You know, he's got a million different jobs for the administration, so good on him. A couple things, and we'll wrap up, and then we'll get to Ninkampoops on the other side of the hour. Yeah, I don't think that we're in a situation where we have to make some choices about what we prioritize. And if the answer is like we're on team red or team blue, and that's the highest order thing, okay. I think that what I'm trying to understand is the way I've approached this is there's some things that like are rocks in the stream I'm not willing to move. The Constitution being one of them. The separation of powers being another. I think it's really important, regardless of who's in power, because it changes all the time, right? That we kind of maintain some principles in addition to our team affiliations. Because I think the rule of law and not of men matters a ton. I don't want government by the whim of Biden or Trump or Obama or even Ronald Reagan. The idea that there's sort of somebody that just unilaterally gives edicts is funny when it's Ron Swanson on Parks and Rec. It's not funny when it's the President of the United States. And so I don't really care who's in power. I think that's an important one. And the rule of law is something that matters, that when Congress passes a law and the president signs it into law or Congress overrides the veto, that's the law. And we treat it as such. And so when it comes to things like immigration, for one administration after another, we have poorly enforced the law that was on the books. So it allowed a lot of bad things to happen, which were people who were here that didn't need to be here. It allowed people who weren't criminals to come here illegally, build a life, and then get disrupted when somebody changes their mind and decides to enforce the law. So all of this is because we didn't enforce the law in that space. So I think that we have to be consistent. And we have to say, you know, I like it when Trump enforces the law when it's immigration. He needs to enforce the law when it comes to TikTok. And trying to say, well, other people don't enforce laws, so this is fine. It's no big deal. I can't play that. Because I think it's important to enforce the law. And if people are mad because TikTok gets shut down, then we'll pass another law to make sure it doesn't. We're going to get to Ninkampoops. And I've got a good one, and I promise it's not Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer. I'm Cameron Smith. This is the Matt Murphy Show, and you're listening to Super Talk 99.7.
Good evening. It's 6 o'clock. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. I've got a full forecast and a traffic report coming up. A plea from Minneapolis's Mayor Jacob Fry to the state of Minnesota. Let the city ban assault weapons. After last week's deadly shooting in a church full of school children, Governor Tim Walz, he wants to call a special legislative session to consider tougher gun laws. But the state legislature, they're about to be evenly split politically, making a statewide assault weapon ban quite a challenge. Fry pleaded with them to consider changing a 1985 law that prevents cities from enacting their own gun restrictions.
The first and best way of doing this is to have a statewide and/or a federal ban on assault weapons and a ban on high-capacity magazines. But if you're not able to do it or willing to do it there, give us the ability.
President Trump today announcing a move for U.S. Space Command from Colorado to Alabama. Alabama lawmakers have estimated the move could create 1,400 jobs and bring $1 billion in annual economic impact. Karen Travers has the latest.
President Trump today finishing what he tried to do in his first term, announcing that U.S. Space Command will leave Colorado.
The U.S. Space Command headquarters will move to the beautiful locale of a place called Huntsville, Alabama, forever to be known from this point forward as Rocket City.
The move reverses one made by then President Biden in 2023 when he said he would keep Space Command in Colorado and build a new headquarters there.
China staging a massive military parade tomorrow. Russian President Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un are set to be there. President Trump at an Oval Office news conference today says he doesn't consider the event a threat to the U.S.
China needs us much more than we need them. No, I don't see that at all, no. And I had actually a very good meeting with President Putin a couple of weeks ago. We'll see if anything comes out of it. If it doesn't, we'll take a different stance.
The state of Tennessee will appeal a Gibson County Chancery Court ruling declaring 2 gun laws unconstitutional, according to the state attorney general's office. Following a lawsuit, a panel of judges in West Tennessee ruled last month that 2 state firearm laws were unconstitutional. One was a ban on guns in public parks, and the other was a law against carrying a gun with the intent to go armed. Tennessee Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti said the state planned to appeal the ruling, citing a lack of clarity with the consequences of the lower court panel's decision. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News. Still massive problems for those trying to get up to Clarksville on 24 westbound. It is shut down between Briley Parkway at exit 43 and Old Hickory Boulevard. That would be near exit 40. There's a vehicle fire there. It's right before Old Hickory Boulevard on 24 westbound. Traffic cameras have traffic backed up all the way down to about the 65 junction there. So that is quite a frustrating mess. Also, Old Hickory Boulevard, east of 24th Street, we've got an injury crash up near Opryland, Briley Parkway northbound before McGavick Pike at exit 12. A wreck reported. And out in near Pegram, Tennessee, 40 westbound, right before McCrory Lane, we've got a wreck. We've got your traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
We are in the home stretch, folks. Less than an hour to go, but miles to go before we sleep, or I sleep at least. When you have as many boys as I do, sleeping is tough to come by. But I promised you guys that we would do Ninkampoops. So, Jackson, take it away, man.
My mouse is acting up.
Oh, okay. There we go. Oh, well, that's
this is okay. You want me to do it?
I want you to go first.
Okay.
You tell me.
So this is Ninkampoops in the news every day at 5:35 or thereafter. We give you some stories. Me and Cameron Smith give you some of the craziest news stories we can find on the internet, and you get to vote me or Cameron. Text in 615-737-9986. This is Ninkampoops in the news.
Yeah, and I restrict myself to Florida man. I work for a member from Florida. I understand the pill pipeline down there. There's a lot of exciting things, jean shorts. So I try to go with Florida. But, Jackson, it's your turn, man. You lead us off.
All right. Naked driver jumps on roof of SUV before being taken into custody during bizarre standoff on L.A. freeway. Westwood, Los Angeles, a naked woman who led police on a brief pursuit Tuesday morning was taken into custody following a lengthy standoff on a major street in Westwood. The woman was detained just before 11 a.m., right after she jumped on the hood of her SUV. Officers initially responded at 6:44 a.m. to a report of a screaming woman causing a disturbance in the 11,000 block of Ovada Place in Bel Air, according to the Los Angeles Police Department. The street is just east of the Getty Center and the 405 freeway. A brief pursuit ensued, ending when the woman stopped the SUV in the middle of the street. Officers with guns drawn positioned themselves behind the gray Ford Bronco, using their patrol vehicles as cover during the standoff. An LAPD system-wide mental response team was summoned to the scene. The intersection was closed. A mid-morning commute. Police placed spike strips on the ground in front of the SUV as a precaution against the possibility of the suspect attempting to drive off.
That's rough.
By 10 a.m., 3 LAPD armored vehicles had arrived at the scene and boxed the Ford Bronco in with the woman inside the vehicle. The incident remains under investigation. That was this morning.
Yeah, invariably, when people are naked in public, it's not good.
What are we doing?
It's just not good.
I'm just trying to get to work. Like, if I worked in L.A., I would be so utterly angry at this woman. What are you doing? Put some clothes on. Drive to work. Be a normal person, please.
Well, this is anything but normal. Mine is Florida man, and man, Circle, SERCLE, El Monte. Circle had a bad day. A Florida man was arrested after a meetup with a woman he met on a dating app turned violent when he allegedly ran her over after she refused to allow him to smell her feet, police say.
Okay, wait, repeat that.
No. We're going to go through the details briefly. Investigators say 28-year-old El Monte Circle, so it's El Monte's his first name, Circle, met the woman through the dating app Seeking. So if you guys are on that right off the bat, that's a one to avoid, I think. Maybe.
Red flag.
And invited her to the hotel. The woman, asked not to be identified, said she had agreed to meet Circle to sell him a pair of used shoes. So on a dating app, and then wants to sell him used shoes from meeting on the dating app, but quickly became uncomfortable when the conversation shifted. This is a quote, when I got there, he just wanted to sniff my feet, and I didn't feel comfortable with that, she explained. I mean, you could have my sneakers all you want. I mean, I don't care. I'm not wearing them. And they're just stinky old sneakers, but people like weird things. This is where normal people would have walked away, right? This is too weird, man.
Well, okay. Why are you going to meet a guy on a date? There's no other, in my mind, maybe I'm twisted, but there is no other possible outcome than this. If you meet a person on a dating app and then agree to sell them your used sneakers.
Yep. It gets better. The woman told police that she told Circle it would cost him $1,000 because she's a foot model and that's her going rate.
Oh.
According to the affidavit. She then said she had to get them out of the car and excused herself to the restroom, only to see Circle run out of the room. Believing he had stolen her belongings, she chased him into the hotel's parking garage and confronted him as he climbed into a red Mercedes SUV. Circle accelerated toward her, stopped, made a three-point turn, struck her with the vehicle. The woman was left with road rash, bruising to her back, arms, and chest, and injuries that required immediate attention. She called the whole ordeal extremely bizarre and said she's just thankful that she survived.
She got hit with a car?
Yes, he ran over her. Quote, "By the grace of God, I'm still standing today," she said. "I've never experienced anything like this before. I've met a lot of people who have foot fetishes, obviously, and nobody's ever done anything to this caliber."
Did he steal the shoes?
I don't know. But he ultimately was charged with aggravated battery. He's bonded out of jail and is scheduled to appear September 29th. But
how do you explain this to other people?
Well,
Like, what are you in for? I hit a lady with my car because she wouldn't let me sniff her feet.
Yeah, well, the part I love is I've never experienced anything like this before. I've met a lot of people who have foot fetishes, obviously.
Well, she's a foot model.
Yeah.
That's like the job.
And nobody's ever done anything like this. I'm like, okay, so you have just a lot of people really into your feet, and you know them, but everything else has been totally above board.
On the up and up, yeah.
Until this guy.
Until this guy ruined it for
ran over
everyone.
you. So I just, wow.
So the online dating portion of this kind of got me thinking about this documentary I watched over the weekend. Have you seen this new Netflix catfish documentary?
No, I haven't.
It is insane. So it was like this high schooler was getting like these threatening text messages, and spoiler alert, it turned out it was her mother sending her all of these crazy text messages.
Wow. Well, I just know if anybody on the Super Talk text line is on Seeking, please let me know so I can help you. Yes. I mean, we should, that one seems dicey. And if somebody wants to meet up to buy your used shoes, I don't think that's a thing you should really do. But that's just me. So, okay, we're looking at the votes. It looks, I'm looking like I'm ahead, and you're predictable, Jackson. That's what they're telling me.
A naked person?
Yeah.
Yeah, I this one popped up. It was the easy one to find, not going to lie.
Okay.
Happened this morning.
Well, I think I edged Jackson out here. And look, I get it that some of you guys are like, oh, it's such a stupid segment. We're trying to make a lot of people happy here. I've been told, millions of people that listen to this radio station, and it is very difficult to make everybody happy because, oh my goodness, you should see the Super Talk text line, 615-737-9986. And other than Jason, who likes everything and just says inappropriate stuff I can't repeat on the air, the rest of you guys all just find different things that you're not sure you like. I mean, when it's Matt or me or anybody, we're here to entertain you and inform you simultaneously. You know, those things are at tension. It's pretty difficult. Okay, so that was Ninkampoops. Don't say that I skipped it on you, but back to the conversation at hand. Several of y'all made comments about the flag burning thing. I'd encourage you to just go read the executive order. That's the easiest way to do it because the Trump administration understands what Supreme Court case law is and what they're actually able to do. And the idea of, well, we're going to prosecute hate crimes more virulently. I don't actually support hate crimes. I want to be real clear about that. I think hate crimes is a weird category of crime that if I burn your stuff or I steal your stuff, that's already a crime. Making something a crime, a more aggravated version of a crime because I really, really super don't like you, is weird. Like, you can be hateful, but the crime is the underlying issue. And so to be like, this is just way worse because you're like really, really mean about it, just strikes me as an affront to free speech. Maybe that's the like media guy in me that's like, I want free speech. The answer to speech you don't like is more speech. That's just how I've always worked. 9058 says, just wanted to hug you and let you know it's okay. he's probably referring to the devastating loss that I suffered on Saturday that I've tried not to bring up.
We kind of ran through all of our sports time in the first segment.
We did. But look, my Alabama Crimson Tide got demolished. It was inappropriate. It was bad for TV. Children shouldn't be allowed to watch that. It was awful. And I'm concerned that it may happen again. I think and my friend Mike said that I should spend the rest of the show asking you guys for input on how we might make Nick Saban come back. But I don't think that that's probably a good use of 45 minutes. It actually is, but we're not going to do that.
He looks like he's having fun on game day.
Oh, yeah, it does. But I like him when he's angry.
But he's happy. He's happy. I don't know if what if you get happy, Saban? What's going to happen?
I don't know. I don't want that. I think Kalen DeBoer's happy. He's like, hey, these guys want. You know who won it? Who told me about how much guys want it and how hard they're working? Butch Jones and his freaking life championships.
He did do that.
He did do that. And the Vols fans did not like that. And I'm concerned I may got that.
I remember watching that at the YouTube video when I was like 15 or 16. And I was just like, what is this guy? Like, what are you doing, bud?
Yeah. So several of y'all have hit on the point about crimes being crimes. And I think we just got to be careful that we don't employ liberal things because they fit our narrative. Like, oh, cool, let's heavily prosecute hate crimes because if you can make it so that burning a flag is a hate crime, yeah, let's get them. Well, like, if you burn someone else's flag, that's destruction of their property and that's a crime. Like, we don't need the hate component. It's just you can't take people's stuff and burn it. That's against the law. You can prosecute that. It doesn't matter. It's not protected speech. Like, there's no issue there. So we've got to be real careful playing in that space. And, I filed a column on the flag burning because I do think what's ironic is the flag code says there's basically two ways that you can retire a flag. You can bury it or you can burn it. And so it's funny to me that the respectful way of retiring a flag is burning it. It's one of them. And the idea of somebody desecrating the flag with burning gets us kind of in the opposite way. And so that juxtaposition was interesting to me, and I decided to write about it because I think it's something that we have to decide. Like, do we care about the symbol or do we care about the freedom that it represents? I care about the flag. I think the flag as a symbol is important, but I don't think that I'm willing to step on the freedom for the symbol. I mean, that's just kind of where I fall on it. So some of y'all brought Mark Levin's comments on this subject. And if it's burning someone else's flag, that's already a crime. You can't do that. So great, the executive order does nothing. And if it's an enhancement and it's like a hate crime, then I don't support that. I think man, y'all are still hating on Ninkampoops in the news. If you love Ninkampoops in the news, speak now. If you hate it, speak now. So it said they are burning the flag. 1817 says they're burning the flag to incite a riot. That's a big issue. If you can prove that, I think that's really tough because I think there are people that do it in protest pretty clearly that aren't asking you to go like trash something or like you would have to be able to prove that up. And if you could, fine. But then that's inciting riot. That's a different crime. And so that's where we have to be careful is I don't want to play weird games where we're not Daryl is funny. Daryl said if they want to burn it in protest, can they wrap it around them first? And I don't think that would be safe, but some of those folks don't look like they really care. So far on the Ninkampoops, I look forward to it every day, hate it. And Sally said I'd be willing to bet most American flags are made in China. I mean, I could probably get behind that law. Only American flags made in America. I mean, That sounds like a really interesting one. But there's some politician out there, probably who's somebody run for the 7th Congressional District seat that can introduce that. I was looking at the candidate list. I want to take a few minutes to talk about that. We got to take another break, but I'm looking at Jody Barrett, Gino Bulso, Stuart Parks, Lee Reeves, Matt Van Epps, Trace Whittem. I mean, who y'all got in this one? I don't know. I mean, I liked Lee Reeves. I think he's a sharp guy, but his campaign has been very pandering, just to be blunt. His first piece of legislation that he would introduce, you could Google it and be like, it's already been introduced. Are you going to co-sponsor somebody else's bill? So it was very like unforced error, which sort of made me like, I don't know about that guy. Jody, as John Rich has been all over supporting Jody. Jody's, interesting out there. I mean, y'all have heard Stuart Parks on this show before. Matt Van Epps, I think. Why am I blanking on the congressman's name who just stepped out that created the vacancy? But I think Van Epps is his guy. So I don't know. I want to know who your dog is in that race, because I don't know at this point. It's an interesting race to me, and I want to know what you think. We got to take a break. I'm Cameron Smith. This is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7.
A South American drug cartel in open waters was greeted by the U.S. military, and it didn't turn out well for them. Some Minnesota mayors are calling for a change to the state's gun laws, and we'll also have today's closing money news. That's coming up at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Oh, man. We're in and out again. It's just very exciting. It's Mark Green. That's who I couldn't think of. Thank you, Nolene. She was helping me figure out who it was, why I could not remember who had endorsed, I think, Matt Van Epps. But I don't know. I haven't really heard anybody say this is the clear front runner. There are a number of folks in that race, but I'd love to know who y'all are supporting. So please, 615-737-9986. Let me know, because I think who we send to Congress matters. And that's a very interesting field right now. So if you got a dog in that hunt, let me know. I was pulling one other thing before we go to the break, that the other thing that I think people aren't being honest about when it comes to the tariffs and things like that is they do like shopping at Walmart, but more than that, they like to be clothed. Something like 80%, north of 80%. I've seen estimates high as 90% of our clothing is imported, because we don't make a lot of our clothing in the United States anymore. So, if we're going to, really hammer it, you're going to pay more for clothing, but not have a ton of options domestically. So that's going to be super interesting. But, I mean, it's pretty warm in the South, so you don't really have to wear clothes. So, that's an option. It's not going to be pretty for some of us, though, and you're not going to want to see that. But buy American. It'll be fine. We got to take a break. I'm Cameron Smith. This is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7.
Good evening. It's 6:30. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories, a forecast, and a traffic report. They're coming up. The White House announcing the U.S. has used military force against a South American drug cartel. President Trump confirmed it from the Oval Office today. Here's ABC's Pierre Thomas.
President Trump claims a drug speedboat allegedly operates under the control and approval of Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro. In a major escalation, the U.S. military launching a deadly attack on this suspected drug smuggling boat.
Over the last few minutes, literally shot out a boat, a drug-carrying boat, a lot of drugs in that boat.
According to President Trump, 11 people on board were killed, all alleged members of Venezuela's Tren de Aragua gang.
Back here in the U.S., some of Minnesota's mayors want to take back gun control from the state. St. Paul's Mayor Melvin Carter said last week's shooting at a church full of school kids in Minneapolis is evidence that the gun laws in the state are not enough. He agreed with Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry's request for gun control at the city level.
The emergency started when we found out that we live in a country in which the number one cause of death for children is gunfire.
Governor Walz, he's called for a special session to review the state's gun laws, but insisted he will not infringe on Second Amendment rights. Let's turn now to today's closing money news. For that, here's Chuck Sievertson.
Stocks dropped for their worst day in a month. Rising pressure from the bond market pulled stocks from their records. The Dow lost 249 points. The S&P dropped 44. The Nasdaq gave up 175. The 10-year Treasury yield climbed to 4.27% from 4.23% late Friday. When bonds are paying more in interest, investors are less willing to pay high prices for stocks. Big tech companies also pulled in the markets. Nvidia fell almost 2% amid concerns about its valuation. Amazon and Alphabet also dropped over 1% each. Tuesday was also the first opportunity for trading after a federal appeals court ruled late Friday that President Trump overstepped his legal authority when announcing sweeping tariffs on countries. Kraft Heinz fell 7% after announcing that it is splitting in two. McDonald's says it's cutting prices on some combo meals to try and woo back some customers.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News. Well, that vehicle fire we had earlier, I-24 westbound up northwest of the city near exit 40. The fire's out. The vehicle's stuck over on the shoulder. It's blocking the shoulder. And all lanes are open now, but you still have a bit of a backup there. We've got an injury crash in Antioch Pike at Blue Hole Road. Downtown, in the Gulch, 40 eastbound at the Demonbreun Street exit, 209B, we picked up a wreck. Down in Brentwood, a crash, 65 northbound at Old Hickory Boulevard South. That would be exit 74. And still clearing this wreck in the Opryland area, Briley Parkway northbound, just before McGavick Pike. We have your traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Welcome back. We're on short time now. So I'm looking at presently Epstein files. I'm looking at 33,000 pages that were just released from House Oversight Committee pursuant to a subpoena. So what's interesting here is I think many of you have been on the same page as me of, hey, release the files. Like, this guy's gone. Like, if there's stuff there that we need to see, do it. And the administration has been reticent to do that. Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna have filed a discharge petition to force this to be done. So the House Oversight Committee is releasing it ahead of that. I don't know if that will stop people from supporting the discharge petition, but the bottom line is they need 218 signatures, and Khanna said that they're going to get 212 Democrats. That means they need 6 Republicans. They have 4 on it right now. Thomas Massie, Nancy Mace, Lauren Boebert, and Marjorie Taylor Greene. So this is going to be a really interesting issue because this looks like a preemptive headed off at the pass. And I'm telling you, I'm looking at the files right now. There are things redacted, but there's a ton of stuff. An incident report. I'm looking at an incident report from the Palm Beach Police Department right now, and talking about different interactions with Epstein. And so, I mean, I think this is good, but I also wonder if it's a sort of head fake. And I'm not a conspiracy thing on this. I think these were creepy people doing creepy people stuff with people they should not have been, who it appears some of them were underage. I don't think there's a magic list. I think this is probably going to be boring, but it sort of begs the question of, like, why not, if it is indeed boring and there's 33,000 pages or more of random stuff. And I can tell you, I'm looking at it right now. A lot of this stuff is just weird. It's, text messages, random stuff. To begin to digest this and come up with something interesting is just kind of silly. But I don't know why at this point, if they're releasing all of this, you wouldn't ask for the rest of it, right? That seems very bizarre to me, because obviously they didn't want to release this. They felt like they had to. Some of these are like handwritten notes. Like this one that I'm looking at, it's on Epstein's letterhead. It says, bucket of roses to the Royal Palm Beach High School for give the flowers at 8:30 to, can't really read that, to her at the stage after the performance. Okay. Like, how you would begin to put these things together, I'm sure that there are conspiracy folks that will spend plenty of time poring over all of them. They are interesting, but it is largely incoherent to somebody just kind of looking at it. So I don't know where y'all fall on this. I think it's going to be interesting to see the discharge petition, whether it's successful or not. My take is it probably is. They only need 2 more Republicans and then it's done, assuming the Democrats are there. I'll be interested to see how many Democrats can stay off of it and say they don't want it, but I don't see that. It's going to be interesting. Several of y'all, now that Congress is back from the recess, particularly with the adverse ruling on the tariff stuff, it's going to be very interesting to see where congressional Republicans are on all this, because several of y'all pointed out on the Super Talk text line, 615-737-9986, that Congress could indeed give Trump the authority for his tariff regime. Like, they could do that. I don't think that it's as much of a slam dunk as Trump would like to think. I think there are a lot of Republicans that are looking at it that are getting hammered at home from small businesses that said, hey, wait a minute, you know, my aluminum cost, my cost for manufacturing, my cost for doing stuff just went through the roof because of these tariffs, and I'm not going to write you another check to support you. And so I don't know if, I mean, Democrats are going to do anything they can to thwart Trump. So just consider that you've got 212 votes that would not support tariffs. You only need 6 Republicans that say, hey, these are attacks and I'm not going to support it, and they're cooked. So I think that's where Trump's going to have a real problem, is if the court if the Supreme Court denies certiorari and says, we're not going to hear this case, there's no new legal arguments, this is the correct ruling at the appellate court level, or the court hears the case and says, no, this regime is not constitutionally permissible, then I don't think it's as easy as Trump just going to Congress and saying, hey, do it. Let's go. Yes, Sally, I said 30,000 pages. It looks like 33 plus. I don't know the exact number, but they just were released from the House Oversight Committee. Sally graciously will let someone else read it for her. I think that's wise, Sally. I don't. In looking through it, I don't know that I want to. Somebody will, I promise you. And particularly the media who want to see if they can draw a closer line between Trump and Epstein, they absolutely will, because they want to be able to connect this. I saw Senator Heidi Campbell had tweeted out an image of Epstein with Trump, and it's a known fact that they were friends. And she was implying that Trump was a pedophile. And that, to me, was a little bit of a bridge too far, even for a Democratic elected official. And I said as much, that, you know, use your words, don't imply things. If you're saying that about the president of the United States, say it, but be clear about it. And I'm kind of reading the tea leaves and looking at what's going to happen. It's going to be interesting to see how we land this plane here at the end of the year, because the stock market, I mean, we've heard about pricing. Some of y'all mentioned Palantir and some of the other companies. The market took a bit of a hit today. A lot of these companies are just priced really high. Their stock offerings are priced really high. And the market seems like it's primed for a correction at some point. I don't know when that's going to come. But let's just say for a minute that this tariff stuff goes away. Well, that we had a way of doing things, a global supply chain with all these deals. And then we kind of negotiated a new thing. And then if the courts strike it down, then that's more uncertainty. And right now, I don't know how a company would price things. I don't know how a company makes a decision on what I pass through to consumers and what I don't, when you're not sure whether this stuff's going to stick around or not. And all this, you know, seems like the chickens are going to come to roost here for the holidays. And that would be, I would think, not awesome for Republicans, but maybe I'm wrong. We need to take a break. I'm Cameron Smith. This is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7. Welcome back. We have only minutes left. I need some counsel here on the SuperTalk text line, 615-737-9986. I need to know what to plant. I did not start from seed, broccoli and some, Brussels sprouts that you'd normally start for a fall garden. I can't get around starting stuff indoors in July. That's just weird for me because I've got my outdoor garden. So as that garden wanes, I want to know what you guys are planting. Over the next few minutes, if you guys don't mind texting me, I want to know, carrots, collard greens, spinach, like all those things seem on deck for things that you can work with. But for example, last year was the first year that I got Brussels sprouts, but I had, cauliflower. I planted cauliflower, but the cold nuked it right before I picked it. Like just hard frost, boom, dead. So, anything that you guys would suggest, I'm open. I don't know how I feel about turnips. I realize this is a departure from the tariff conversation, but, as the options of fresh fruit and vegetables coming from other more tropical climates get tariffed, I guess I'm going to be stuck with my Swiss chard and turnips. I'm not looking forward to that. I like some good raspberries, even in the middle of winter. But no, I cannot grow them. So cabbage, carrots, kale. Has anybody done kohlrabi? I don't know. I'm just fishing here, but I got to figure that out. And it's just a reminder, particularly with my 5 boys, and we don't have much time left. Those of us who are in the parents vein, I understand over the last couple hours, we've talked about a bunch of topics. You've educated me. You'd help me out. Thank you, TB. I really appreciate you giving me some options for the fall vegetable. Strawberries. My strawberries, I had them in planters, and they got absolutely nuked this summer. Little trellises around my rail on my deck, and I guess it's just not enough soil, and it was too hot. But, man, they got nuked. So I'll have to look at the strawberries. That's interesting. But it's just a reminder that we don't have that much time with the people that we love and that we care about. Like, I know that politics is a big deal. We talk current events. This is talk radio. I get it. But I'd also encourage you guys to take that time, to spend those moments planting, growing. I've still got figs coming in. And I can tell you, just giving figs to my neighbors, going out and eating them as a snack when I get home from work, talking to my boys about, hey, some things take time. You plant the seed, you don't know what's going to happen. And then I realize I'm actually talking about my children, that we invest in those folks. And I appreciate all y'all. It matters to me that you take the time to engage and have conversation. Got other suggestions, onions, green lettuce. I got some onions in already. I think they should be good. Lettuce is always interesting to me. Sometimes it goes really well for me. Sometimes it doesn't. So I'll give it a shot. See what happens. I got some dragon carrots that I'm looking at trying out. So I'm a little bit of a dork like that. But I just want everybody to remember the human here. My friend Alex pointed out when I said that conservatives like freedom, she said, well, all Americans like freedom. And I think sometimes we get so intense about this stuff. We get so fired up about the issues that we miss the people. And I know that it's really easy right now to kind of retreat, sit on your phones. We talk about it with kids, but adults too. We sit on the phone and we scroll and look and tweet back and do all that stuff. And we don't relate. We don't build the relationships. And one of the things that matters to me is relationships. It's people. And it's kind of funny. I'm on the advisory board of a bank, smart bank, and I've learned that, man, their secret advantage is how much they love people and relationships. And I want to see that everywhere, whether, it's my day job, it's talk radio, it's at the Tennessean. I think that where we're going to find success is when we invest in people. And I appreciate you investing your time with me. You got a lot of options of how you can spend your time and spend several hours, whether it's Matt, me, Chris, Dan, Chad, doesn't matter. You're valuable, and we very much appreciate it. And and I would encourage you to take the moments to build the relationships, to spend the FaceTime, put down the phone, back away, go grab some dinner with somebody. It'll make a big difference in how you approach all these issues, whether it's tariffs or taxes or flags or the Supreme Court. Everything's better when we're connected to one another. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your engagement today, and thank you for educating me. I certainly need it. I'm Cameron Smith. This is the Matt Murphy Show, and this is Super Talk 99.7.